Good evening, and welcome to the March 2nd, 2020 Old Bridge Township Council meeting. I'd like to call it to order. Please stand. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence, and our prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As customary in this chamber, we stand for a moment of silence to remember those who are protecting our freedoms, both here and abroad, for our first responders, for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, and this evening the mayor would like to recognize someone.
Thank you, Council President. Council, to deep regret, I stand here tonight, and we acknowledge the passing of Mr. Bill Hutchins, Sr. Mr. Hutchins was employed by the Township as a special police officer for 58 years. You might also remember last year we recognized Mr. Hutchins as one of our hometown heroes. As we know, Mr. Hutch served in the U.S. Navy for many years, and then he continued to serve his country in the Merchant Marines for 4 years, and he continued, as I said, to serve his community for 58 years. People may know Mr. Hutch. He was a familiar face at the ice arena. He was frequently assigned there, and he was frequently assigned on Route 516. And I'll be a little humorous by saying that the 6-mile backups in each direction on 516 on a Sunday morning was due to Mr. Hutch, because everyone passing by would stop, including myself, and say hello to him. He was a family man. He will be missed by many. So I ask that everyone keep him, his spirit, and his family in their thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Mayor. Our prayer, Mr. Paschetti.
Dear Lord, bless thy servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve thee in this chamber. Give us quiet minds and hearts that we may hear your voice. Help us to know when to speak, when to be silent. Give us strength to oppose the wrong and uphold the right, and grant that we have a good conscience and soul at peace with thee and with one another. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been given to the newspaper, and notice of the meeting has been posted in public places. Next open public meeting of the Township Council will be held on Monday, March 16, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Dr. Greenberg?
Here.
Mr. Merwin?
Present.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Peschitti?
Here.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
President Soho?
Here.
9 present.
Good evening, everyone. First will be approval of minutes, combined meeting, October 21st, 2019. Do I have a motion? Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Abstain.
And Dr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Peschitti? Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstention.
Next will be bill listing, Mrs. Walker. Accounts payable, March 2nd, 2020, $19,319,773.31. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Peschitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll, February 14, 2020, $1,055,618.53. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Peschitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll overtime, February 14, 2020, $26,840.36. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Mr. Paschetti, and may we have a breakout, Mr. Shaw?
Thank you, Council President. As the Councilwoman Walker indicated, the total overtime for the pay period February 14, 2020 was $26,840.36. There was really no uptick in any other departments except the normal workload related. But, and in police department, the total overtime for sworn police officers was $19,044.55. There was no grant deduction for ETO, $4,016.79. The net overtime was $15,027.76, representing 292.25 man and women hours.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll, February 28th, 2020, $994,256.74.
Do I-
Move it.
Motion? Second. Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Payroll overtime, February 28th, 2020, $29,948.26.
Do I have a
Move it.
motion? Second. Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli. Mr. Shaw, may we have a breakout, please?
Thank you, Council President, again. As Councilwoman Walker indicated, the total overtime for payroll of February 28, 2020 was $29,948.26. There was a slight uptick in arena for the holiday coverage. For the police department, the sworn officer overtime was $19,404.36. The grant deduction for grant was $5,422.88. Deduction for ETO, $3,144.25. The net overtime was $10,837.25, representing 334 man and women hours.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
That concludes the bill list.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Walker. Next is public hearings and ordinances for second reading. Ordinance number 2020-07, an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, New Jersey, revising Chapter 527 of the Township Code entitled Wreckers and Towing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to be heard on this second reading item? Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion and now go to council. Anyone on my left have any comments or questions?
I'll reserve them for later if I need them.
Anyone on my right for comment on this ordinance? Okay, then I'll take a motion.
Move it.
Second?
Okay, moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Mr. Piscitty. Mr. Rizzoli was the first.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
No.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes,
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Next is ordinance number 2020-08, an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, New Jersey, revising Chapter 435 of the Township Code entitled Streets and Sidewalks, Article 4, Excavations. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing no hands, I will close the public portion and now go to council. Anyone on my left for any questions or comments?
not at this time.
Anyone on my right? Seeing no hands, I will ask for a motion.
Move it?
Moved by Mr. Pasquini, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Fisketti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Next will be preliminary public comments to council, subject to the following conditions and restrictions. During the preliminary public portion of the meeting, any person may address the Township Council on any subject matters for a maximum period of 5 minutes. Any such person desiring to speak during the preliminary public portion shall first sign a list maintained by the Township Clerk for such purpose. Comments during the preliminary public comment portion of the meeting shall not encompass second reading ordinances or any other matter for which comment or a public hearing is to occur at the meeting.
Sherry Wexler?
Good evening. Mayor Henry, I would like to address you. I have written you 3 times requesting a meeting
I
with
could,
you.
excuse me.
We need your names.
So this is for purposes of this meeting for everybody. This is council comments, so every comment is to be directed to the council and council
Okay.
president.
Happy to do so. Thank you for
Appreciate it. No
clarifying.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
We get your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sherry Wexler, Old Bridge. On February 15th, I emailed Mayor Henry requesting a meeting to discuss a humane pet shop ordinance. After not receiving a reply, I followed up on February 21st, again respectfully requesting the courtesy of a response. I emailed Mayor Henry a third request on February 26th, and as of tonight, March 2nd, I still have not received a reply. I find it appalling that the mayor does not find it necessary to respond to his own constituents. I'd like to speak about our shelter, Old Bridges Shelter. As you've been told, there's only a few dogs at the shelter right now, which is fantastic. Everybody should be very proud of themselves for that. I'd like you to know that one of the reasons for that is because you have a subset of rescues in this area, Monmouth County, Middlesex County, that are excellent, and they take animals that otherwise would end up at the shelter. These rescues are very upset that you are not allowing a pet store to sell puppies, which not only competes with their efforts to try to find animals homes, but you're basically throwing away all the efforts and hard work that these volunteers are doing to keep animals out of your shelter. They're very upset, and I don't think that you want to alienate them. You may be familiar with the Scotch Plains situation from about 2 weeks ago, where there was a puppy mill. There was 132 animals rescued. Several of these rescues, 13 to be exact, stepped up so that the town did not have to bear this burden. Some of them, I know for a fact, went out at 10 o'clock at night to go and pick dogs up. Last month, at this meeting, you heard from several volunteers from Sammy's Hope. Sammy's Hope is in Sayreville. They have a shelter in the next town over. You're basically telling their volunteers that their work is useless by allowing a pet stop to sell puppies. I really need you to understand that you need to be supporting the efforts of these rescues, not hindering them, because they are your friend. They are one of the reasons why the Old Bridge Shelter only has a few dogs. They take animals that would otherwise end up at the shelter, stray animals that people have called them about, and you really need to pay attention to them. Last month, I emailed you a petition which now has a total of 116 Old Bridge residents who want you to pass a pet shop ordinance. Imagine if these 116 people were standing before you tonight. As their constituents, you would need to explain to them why you're ignoring their wishes. They deserve an explanation. As elected officials, your responsibility is to your constituents. You represent the best interests of the residents, voters, and taxpayers of Old Bridge, not the owner of one store, and certainly not a company from Ohio that has a history of egregious violations of the Animal Welfare Act, as well as numerous consumer complaints and lawsuits. I also want to speak to the fact about this meeting last month. What went on was egregious. It was an embarrassment and a liability to our town, and you were all aware of that because I've sent you an email. Mr. Roselli, I understand that you're here tonight instead of Mr. Lozier. I think Mr. Lozier should offer a public apology. That was horrendous. I've never seen a meeting run like that. What you did by telling people not to sign in is not only unconscionable, it's against the law. I sincerely hope that does not happen again, and as a resident, I would like an explanation of why it happened, why the whole council wasn't told, and I would like to know what precautions and checks and balances you have to ensure that that never happens again. Thank you.
Ellen Coyote.
Just press the green.
I did. It came on. Yeah, okay.
Your last name?
Coyote, right here. I just like to preface the video I'm going to play that there's no right way to do the wrong thing. This is a breeder from Oklahoma that has supplied puppy mill dogs, commercially bred USDA licensed dogs, to New Jersey pet stores. And if you'll notice that the breeder claims to have between 800 and 400 dogs on the premises at once usually, suggests that the undercover investigator hold his nose when he walks into the warehouse shelter building because the stench is so overpowering. The dogs are kept in darkness. She only turns the light on for them to go in and turns it off when she goes out. The investigator states that more than 80 dogs began to bark, which was painful to his ears, and the dogs jump and circle within their cages, exhibiting neurotic behavior typical of the puppy mill dog.
Hey, I guess you're the Halpanes? Okay. Yeah, hey, do you sell puppies out the door to people, or do you just do oh, okay, great.
I am USDA and state inspected. In fact, they were just here a couple months ago.
How many head of dog do you have?
Right now, I have 87. This is the lowest we've ever had. 2 years ago, I had 400. I have Yorkies, Maltese, and Morkies. And then I have chocolate and tan Yorkies. I mean, if y'all wanted to see those, I could show those to you.
Sure. Do you have them here now? Or
yes, if you don't tell anybody, I'll let you go through my building. License, you're not supposed to take anybody through your facility.
Okay.
And I have been working, so you may have to hold your nose. But
no, don't even worry. I understand.
It's been kind of crazy because I can only either do pictures or I can be out here cleaning. So,
nice. Yeah. Guess he was biting. Ears are up and everything. It's great. The ears are up and everything. It's great. Maybe or nothing.
He is nice. I think she's kind of lagging myself. These are so cute. What are you doing? You're so cute. I've already talked to some people about these, so I would need to let them get back with me, you know what I'm saying? I've got this many puppies right now, and in a couple weeks, I will have like one or two litters.
Okay. They all have the little chrysanthemum face.
This one right here is out of it just a bit. This mom ended up having to have a C-section, and she had 7 puppies. I got her home, and she didn't care for them, and then she ended up drying up, and I only raised him.
She had 7 puppies, and she only raised one. She let the others die. What I also have in front of me is USDA violations of USDA breeders that sell to New Jersey pet stores for just a couple years. This is what you're dealing with. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Cynthia Coster.
Good evening.
Good evening, Council. My name is Cynthia Kester. I'm a resident in Old Bridge Township, homeowner. I'd like to read to you a statement from a responsible New Jersey breeder. When you welcome a canine companion into your home, you are making a lifelong commitment. Choosing a purebred dog helps you find a pet that fits your personality and your family's lifestyle. Responsibly bred, purebred puppies have predictable characteristics like size, activity level, temperament, and grooming needs. Quality New Jersey breeders, litters, have pedigrees that trace their heritage, so you know what to expect as your puppy matures into an adult dog. The following statement was given to present to Old Bridge Mayor and Town Council. I have copies for all of you. I'm writing as a breeder, dog trainer, and pet care professional regarding the opening of the puppy store in Old Bridge. Having worked in puppy stores in my youth before the internet, I can only say that I can't believe that people still buy their family members from these establishments. These puppies are often poorly bred and full of parasites. Very little effort goes into the breeding and upbringing of these dogs. The effort is on making sure that they don't die, stink, so they can be sold. As a breeder, I make it my mission to find quality breeding stock. I health and temperament test the parents so that I am creating the best puppies possible. Once they're born in my home, they're kept clean and warm. Mom gets the top quality care, food and supplements, and the whelping box is kept clean. The puppies get early neurological stimulation, early scent introduction, and weight checks every day until around the time that their eyes open. From there on, there is a curriculum of developmentally appropriate small challenges and novel items introduced to them on a daily basis. Once they're old enough to go outside, they start housebreaking. They go outside on a schedule just like they will once they're purchased and go home. This is a full-time job, but it sets the puppies up for a lifetime of good habits. The puppies also meet as many kinds of people as I can safely expose them to prepare them for life as pets and working dogs. As a dog trainer and boarding kennel doggy daycare owner, I've helped people try to work through these issues that poor breeding and upbringing can cause. It often becomes a matter of managing the pet for the rest of their lives. Certain behaviors, like living in their own filth, cannot always be rehabilitated. Other behaviors, like being anxious, hand-shy, or otherwise emotionally unstable, can come from the parent's DNA and the amount of stress that the mother experienced during her pregnancy and while raising her puppies. These traits cannot be trained out of puppies. This emphasizes the importance of good breeding and upbringing practices that doesn't even touch the medical and physical ailments prevalent amongst puppy store puppies. Please consider the puppies and the families who they go home with when making this decision. Purchasing a puppy should not be an impulsive decision. Quality breeders would never place their puppies with a broker or a pet store. Evaluating the puppy's temperament and finding the right placement in their homes is a top priority for breeders. Sadly, not one of the dozens of breeders in my network was comfortable making a public statement on this topic for fear of the backlash of pet store owners. They'd like to thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Breeder of Service Therapy and Pet Dogs in New Jersey. And on the bottom of this, which I will give to you, is a link to the AKC listing of 220 quality breeders here in New Jersey. None of them sell to puppy stores. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Charles Gatzik.
Hi, Charles Gatzik. I'm a resident of East Windsor, New Jersey. I'm here to bring up a couple different things. We've had a multitude of interactions with the township over the last few months, and some of that has been very, very challenging, to say the least. We made formal Oprah requests for both application and permits for this pet store. And in doing so, the clerk, deputy clerk, pardon me, on the record, we have it, and we'll be happy to supply you if you choose to investigate it. We were supplied the permit, which says, permit, commercial use tenant fit-up, as the use that is on the permit. The clerk, deputy clerk, did not furnish us with the application, even though it was clearly written on our Oprah request. So we went another avenue. We asked for the permit file. Well, first we asked for the permit pack, and even though I had explained myself to the deputy clerk, she chose to just say there is no such thing. We did get the permit file on the second go-around, and in the permit file is the application, which didn't exist from our former Oprah request. And it states that the use requested is for pet store. Pet store. My understanding, and after, I'm not an attorney, but reading the zoning, my understanding is that the EDO-3 zone does not allow for pet stores. It allows for animal hospitals and things like that, but there is no pet store in there. And it clearly states in the zone that anything that is not specifically included is therefore specifically excluded. So I'd like an answer. I appreciate an answer as to how a zoning application was permitted, a permit was issued for something that says clearly pet store, which is something that sells pets, that is not allowed specifically in the zone, and therefore under the law and under the MLUL, it states that if it's not specifically included, it is specifically excluded. I have one other item that, and I hope that we can get some response from the council tonight immediately. But my other question is, Mr. Reardon had taken a complaint about construction, which we showcased the last time starting before the store opened. And here we are, where we followed up on that to see what happened. And Mr. Reardon responded to me the following Monday, I think it was the 10th. We can definitely confirm all the dates for you. And he said that a penalty was issued. Well, come the 13th, we find out that the penalty was paid. Instead of $2,000, it was remediated to be $200 by Mr. Reardon. I don't know how this special treatment happens. You know, we have residents that can't receive calls back, yet we have an out-of-towner attempting to open a business here that's not legal in the zone, and we have penalties being abated by this township. So I clearly would like an explanation for it. I think everybody in this room deserves an explanation. Can we have that now? Can we have an agreement that we will have a written follow-up and that we will have that sent to us immediately after this meeting? Because we're going to judge exactly what we're going to do as a community based upon the actions taken by this township that we feel are not just and lawful. So we'd like to have an answer. Can we have an answer, President?
Illegal.
I mean, to the extent that we'll have to check with the zoning officer with respect to that and the construction official with respect to that issue. Certainly can't sit here and give you those responses because I don't know.
You would agree that something that is not specifically included in the zone
Engaging
is
conversation.
specifically...
So
Oh,
again.
I'm sorry. So
right,
then
that's
if you're not engaging, then I have 36 seconds left.
No. It's not- it's
Yeah,
council-
I understand that there
comment.
are
So again, So
licensing.
the question, right, so to the extent that I'll have to check with the zoning officer, since it's his responsibility, with respect to the issuance of a zoning permit, and also with respect to the construction official.
I appreciate that. I'd also like an answer to know exactly why the penalty was abated. We don't get that special treatment. We can't even get phone calls back. Will you please guarantee us an
So
answer?
again, it's within the purview of the zoning officer and the construction official.
I don't think the UCC sees it that way.
We'll check into it.
Thank you very much. I would appreciate it. Am I being guaranteed that I'm going to receive an answer?
You're going to look into it, correct?
Why don't you, your administrator, I'm the one who's attorney.
Well, we'll try to get the response. There is, I'm not going to sit here and say guaranteed. I have to gather the information, but certainly we'll find out all the issue that you have raised.
Right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Janice Fisher?
Good evening.
Good evening. Janice Fisher, Manasquan, New Jersey. I coordinate the Puppy Mill Awareness Campaign for Friends of Animals United, New Jersey. And I've received no response from the council regarding information that I provided about the dismal track record of Petland Incorporated, a corporation that Old Bridge seems destined to be welcoming into our state. And so I'd like to go on the record again, just to speak to the issue. I'd like to remind you of the undercover investigations of Petland stores in 7 states, which revealed sick and suffering animals, dead animals in freezers, and employees that admitted that kennel staff medicated these animals without vet care. The Humane Society of the United States has received over 1,300 consumer complaints about the purchase of sick puppies, and consumer websites are saturated with consumer and former employee complaints. Given the high volume of complaints, Petland often requires confidentiality agreements, better known as gag orders, and they've included arbitration clauses in their contracts in an obvious effort to quiet dissatisfied customers. The company lobbies legislators state to state to pass laws that would strip local governments of their right to regulate pet stores. They've been under fire numerous times for delaying and denying reimbursement for vet bills to pet owners, which has led to lawsuits. And their pet warranty company often issues deceptive statements about the number of sick animals that are sold. And if you weren't convinced yet that Petland should not be coming into our state, consider that this company offers predatory and loan shark financing, Petland credit cards at 30% interest, and financing through a Utah-based lending company at interest rates of 151%. But what you might want to be most concerned about is that Petland has experienced multiple outbreaks of zoonotic disease, hospitalizing many people, sickening over 140 people, and prompting the CDC to make a warning to the public of the risks of buying a Petland puppy. Old Bridge, in my opinion, will be promoting misery for animals and for consumers on a grand scale by allowing this dysfunctional corporation to come into our state and to operate in our state, while other towns and states are busy fighting to keep them out. I'd like to also note that no new pet stores have opened for 10 years in our state, and 141 municipalities have sent a message by adopting ordinances that they're not welcome here. Old Bridge is bucking the statewide and the nationwide trend. You're actually undermining your surrounding towns, your neighbors, that have promoted animal-friendly communities by adopting ordinances. These communities sought to protect animals and to protect their residents. 8 years ago, Brick Township, New Jersey, adopted an ordinance banning the retail sale of puppies and kittens, but they grandfathered in their pet store. I predicted that this would come back to haunt them, and it did big time. After enduring several years of deceptive business practices and the sale of sick puppies by this pet store, which prompted massive protests and a media frenzy, News 12 New Jersey, the Asbury Park Press, the Star-Ledger, the council reversed course and they amended their ordinance. I asked the mayor if he remembered my prediction 8 years earlier. And he said, "I do, Janice, and I only wish we had listened to you back then." I hope each of you are listening to me tonight. I don't really think you've done your due diligence, and I think that the licensure of this pet store is not only going to affect your town, it's going to affect the entire state. We're all going to be victims. Petland Incorporated is going to be your legacy, and I'm telling you, it is not going to be your finest moment. Thank you.
Steve Ember.
Good evening.
I'm Steve Ember from Middlesex Borough. I attended a meeting of animal rescue groups yesterday. One of our topics was how overwhelmed we are with discarded and abandoned companion animals. In the past 15 years, our groups have rescued and adopted out thousands of companion animals here in New Jersey. Most of them have been dogs, and many of these dogs were sold by Petland and similar stores. We have heard numerous stories from the humans who discard their dogs. Usually they claim to be animal lovers, but have some ridiculous excuse for not keeping their dogs. It's not unusual for these animal lovers, in quotes, to immediately buy a replacement dog from a pet store. After all, in our disposable society, companion animals are often nothing more than commodities or products to be abandoned or otherwise removed when they are no longer useful to their humans. Our companion animals love us and deserve to be treated much better. They deserve to be loved, cherished, respected, and have full, happy lives. They are not property and should not be sold as property. It's time for us to evolve and live in the 21st century where life is respected. There is nothing more precious than sharing love with companion animals. That's how we learn what is really important in life instead of focusing on wealth, status, power, control, possessions, lust, and avarice. Please pass an ordinance to ban pet stores from selling companion animals now. Failure to do so dooms many animals to death and suffering. Please be on the right side of history instead of perpetuating the barbarity and cruelty so common in our world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Hackett.
Sure.
Good evening, Brian Hackett. I'm the New Jersey State Director with the Humane Society of the United States, 700 Professional Drive, Gaithersburg, Maryland. I am a New Jersey resident. Over the course of the last 3 months, the council has received a lot of correspondence. We've been here at several meetings. Unfortunately, none of us have gotten any responses to anything. But I want to dispel one primary myth that pet store owners that sell puppy mill dogs want you to believe, and I really hope you aren't fooled. They'd like you to think that puppy mills are over here, but they only source from USDA licensed breeders. Well, perhaps they do, because that's the only standard that our state law has to go by. But a USDA licensed breeder means zilch. It means nothing. Let's talk sheer numbers. We know the federal government, how large it is and how inefficient it can be. There are thousands of these USDA licensed breeders and only a little bit over 100 inspectors. And those inspectors are not just inspecting the puppy mills. They're inspecting a whole slew of other facilities. That said, in just a 3-year period, There were 455 citations issued for improper or outdated medication. There were 442 citations issued for eye problems, discharge, cherry eye, cloudy eye. There were 438 citations issued for dental disease or bad conditions. There were 386 citations issued for mats and fur. There were 329 citations issued for failure to access the proper vet care. 220 citations for nails being too long and digging into their skin. There were 185 citations for hair loss. There were 173 citations for lameness. There were 135 citations for skin problems. And there were 99 citations for ear problems. These are just the minuscule few inspections that actually occurred of the wonderful USDA licensed breeders that they source from. This is just a smidgen. So the concern here is, and the reason that hundreds of towns in 3 states have now passed laws banning the sale of animals from these facilities that are USDA licensed, is because it is no guarantee of safety, proper breeding, animal welfare, health, anything. Nothing. We've proposed to you a humane pet store ordinance, which is the middle of the road. You doing absolutely nothing and allowing this pet shop to open to sell puppy mill dogs, to sell commercial bred dogs, I don't care what you call them or where they're from. Responsible breeders don't sell to pet shops or through pet shops. That's irresponsible. It's shortchanging your residents. It's putting the rest of the state of New Jersey at public health danger. That's the CDC, not me. All these citations is the U.S. Department of Agriculture inspectors, not me. These are all facts that you can verify and look up yourself. The other extreme of you doing nothing is allowing a store to open for the first time in 10 years under this irresponsible, inhumane business model. The middle of the road, pro-business, pro-consumer, pro-animal approach is exactly what we've proposed in our humane pet store ordinance, and it's what hundreds of towns and many surrounding towns around Old Bridge have done. You allow a business to open up and sell everything except dogs or cats, and they're overwhelmingly successful. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pet retailers across this state, mom and pop, all the way up to Petcos and PetSmarts, that are overwhelmingly successful. If a pet store is not successful, not selling dogs or cats, there's something else wrong going on. The pet industry was a $95 billion industry in 2019. I know you all care about business. I care about business as well. That $95 billion did not include live pet sales. So you don't need to sell puppy mill dogs to be successful. There's a lot of things that can happen. Passing the proposed humane pet store ordinance that I have sent to you will put much of this at ease, will solve many problems, is still pro-business, is pro-consumer, and it doesn't undercut your shelter, rescues, and your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Hiltner?
Good evening.
Good evening. Tom Hiltner, Old Bridge resident. Just moved here a couple weeks ago. It's 7:30 a.m. I show up at Sammy's Hope Animal Rescue Shelter in a neighboring city. Open the doors, I find 8 dogs ready to go out for a walk, maybe be fed, and just have some love. I would adopt every single one of these 8 dogs at this rescue shelter if I could. They are adoptable. At shelters across the country, animal shelter dogs are adoptable. The day prior, 3 newcomers came in from a high-kill shelter in a nearby municipality that the shelter took in. Without shelters in business, they wouldn't have a place to find home. They would have no hope. Those wonderful animals do not deserve any more obstacles to finding a loving home. I have no personal issue with any of the folks at the pet store. I'm sure they're fine people. I really do. I think their motivation and intent is probably just and right. I do believe they're probably just wrong. And I think the arguments you've been hearing tonight and over the past several weeks are overwhelming, not just emotionally, but intellectually and logically. I have some questions that are not rhetorical, that I'd like to pose to you, the council, that on behalf of your constituents, you could ask the pet store owners. I understand that they visit breeders. Do they visit all the breeders they deal with? If so, how often do they visit them? Is it just once? Is it every 6 months? Is it every year? How can we be sure that the conditions in which these dogs are raised in are maintained? We live in a small town in New Jersey. What oversight, monitoring, and enforcement can Old Bridge, New Jersey have over a commercial breeding facility in Missouri? What action, what enforcement mechanism, legally speaking, would we have? Can we expect a New Jersey small business to incur the cost of going to all of these commercial breeding facilities around the country, time after time, month after month, year after year? Can we really expect them to do that? Is that a viable business model that's been proven? If the financial situation changes and corners need to be cut, what assurances do we have, past verbal promises, that those corners won't be cut in terms of dog living conditions? It's been mentioned that we've only heard from people from other towns. I think tonight that has been dispelled to a certain extent. Keep in mind that just because someone's from another town, that doesn't make their argument any less, or the information they bring to the table any less relevant. Regarding the USDA, we've heard that the USDA is not a gold standard by any stretch of the imagination. To some extent, the pet store owners even they don't argue that. If that were the case, I do have a question. If the USDA is so good, the standard is so high, then why does the Petland Pet Store choose to only select the top 10% if that standard is so high? Why only use the 10%? What does that even mean? I have a question regarding their business model and cat adopt. I understand they will only be doing cat adoptions, not cat sales. That's great. If they can do that for cats, why not dogs too? We just heard the data from Brian about $95 billion industry, not including dog sales. Why is selling dogs so important? All these are not rhetorical questions. Finally, why is Old Bridge different? Why are we bucking the trend, as someone else just so eloquently put, of 140 plus other New Jersey towns? Why are we different? That's a question to you, the council members. What makes us different? Past verbal promises and we promise we'll be different. What will it take for Old Bridge to catch up to our neighbors? Thank you.
Deneve Pejos.
Good evening.
Hi, Genevieve Pejos, Tinton Falls. All right, I'm moving. I am so excited for my family's new store to open, and at the same time, so saddened to hear about what they have been going through due to a lack of education. I know you don't know me, but if you did, you would know that I am a lover of all animals and an advocate for animal rights. I have always supported my local shelters, have marched against factory farming, and have rescued all 4 of the animals in my home. So you can imagine that when I first heard my family was opening a pet store and would be selling puppies, I was a little bit weary. I know that there are lots of dogs in need of homes, and I have seen numerous horrific videos of what goes on in puppy mills, like you saw tonight. Ooh. That said, I have always believed in breed preservation from reputable breeders that take amazing care of their animals. Typically in pet stores, this is not what you are getting, but at their store, Petland, it will be. My cousin Thomas Gallo and his family went all over the country visiting these breeders and hanging with the pups. I got to see firsthand all the pictures and videos, and these dogs are truly living their best life. It is the way breeding should be done. Now, while I personally do not trust the government to regulate the treatment of animals being sold to stores, I 100% trust my family, and after extensive research, trust this company. If any breeder gets even one violation, they no longer do business with them for a minimum of 2 years, so the breeder can prove the issue is resolved and that it will not happen again. My cousin studied to be a vet in college, worked at the SPCA, and would foster countless kittens in their family home. These are animal lovers. The fact is, certain people want and love purebred dogs, and there is no reason that they should not be allowed to have one. Without a place like this to get them, people are forced to the internet or other states where there is essentially a black market for dogs, which insanely is totally legal, and where there is basically no regulation. And since most people do not take the time to educate themselves and get caught up in the cuteness, they end up getting a puppy mill dog that came from filth, where the parents were abused, and will more than likely have health issues in the future. These dogs come with no guarantee, no real screenings, and without good ethical stores like this one, that black market industry will flourish. Petland not only goes above and beyond for health screenings, they also guarantee the health of your pup. And if for any reason you change their mind, they take the dog back at any age and ensure they get a home, meaning their pups will never end up in a shelter. The store will have adoption days featuring rescues and all of their rescue dogs, and all of their cats and kittens will be rescue as well. Shame on the few animal rights organizations out there protesting this store and spreading false lies and information. These extremists are what ruin our cause and bring it to an insane level, one that actually hurts the animals they are claiming to protect. There are so many real issues out there that these organizations can be concerning themselves with that could actually help animals, but instead they are wasting their time attacking one of the few businesses that will truly be supporting animal welfare and breed preservation. Thank you.
Nicolette Fusco.
Good evening.
Good evening, Nicolette Fusco, Manalapan, New Jersey. I want to give you all some insight to how people feel about what's going on.
Where are you from?
Manalapan. The activist groups have plastered the internet with incorrect information about the store. They have set up several Facebook pages and post false negative information almost daily. How successful is all of this effort? Their Facebook page, Stop Old Bridge NJ Store from Selling Puppies and Kittens, has been up for months and shared nationally with all of the local Facebook groups. It was so unsuccessful with minimal likes that they recently changed the name to Shut Down Puppy Mill Pipeline NJ, deliberately changed to mislead the readers. It was a successful change. So far, this page, which has been plastered all over and shared nationally with all animal rights groups, has received 162 likes. Yes, you heard me right, 162 likes for the entire country. Most posts receive 0 likes, and this tells you that people are not falling for their lies. You'll hear the activists tell you that they have a petition with over 3,500 signatures. These signatures are mostly from activist groups all over the country, along with some residents. Unfortunately, this petition is worthless and full of lies, propaganda. Nothing stated in this petition is true. This petition has been plastered all over social media across the United States and on every local Facebook page in New Jersey for the last 2 months. Old Bridge alone has over 67,000 residents. Middlesex and Monmouth counties has over 1.5 million residents. 52% of New Jersey residents are on Facebook. So if all of these signatures were local, which they are not, that would mean that only 0.0046 people signed the petition, and a petition that's completely fake. Thank you.
Joseph? Just says Joseph.
Good evening.
Good evening. Joseph Gallo, Manalapan. So today we want to provide you with some additional facts, not a lot of the fiction that you've been hearing. Some people are deliberately misleading the council and the public by providing false information to support their true agenda, which is self-fulfilling, anti-business, and yes, anti-American. They want to impose their extremist ideology on everyone, no matter what it takes, with lies and propaganda. They want to take away our rights to choose. Some of these groups actually profit from their actions and in reality do very little to help animal welfare. You've heard several times about the 120 or 100 some odd bans put in place in New Jersey. They say this, they read the list to make you feel like you're the only ones that aren't doing this, okay? The fact is 120 New Jersey municipalities do have a ban in place. What they don't tell you is that there are 565 municipalities, and that only 120 put bans in place. That's only 21% of New Jersey municipalities. So in other words, they've been doing this, bullying every township in New Jersey for several years, and they've only fooled 21%, none of which had an active pet store or any opposition. I won't waste your time by reading the list of the 445 New Jersey municipalities that don't have a ban in place, where we also could have opened our store. You heard about Scotch Plains, New Jersey. They put a ban in place in 2017. What they're not telling you is that they did nothing to shut down the puppy mill. There was a puppy mill in Scotch Plains. They picketed and everything else and put a ban for pet stores, but not the puppy mill. All right, they did nothing to shut it down. Ask yourself, why not? Why aren't these groups out protesting and picketing the actual puppy mills? They keep telling how many there are in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Why aren't they petitioning to ban them? Without puppy mills, organizations like Humane Society, which is a lobbyist group based in DC that tries to dictate what happens at a local level, would have nothing to advertise to get their $142 million in annual donations to stop puppy mills. They don't want to ban pet shops from selling puppies to animal welfare. They want to ban pet shops because it's their competition. They recruit good-hearted people, some of which you've seen tonight, like Larry, Sherry, with lies, and have them fight their battles to attack the local businesses. You also heard in both previous meetings that the U.S. Animal Welfare Act means nothing and hasn't been updated since 1966. I'm sure you remember that. Several people came up and said that. It was also touted several times by Brian Hackett, the New Jersey State Director of the Humane Society. As a State Director of the Humane Society, you would think he would be honest and knowledgeable about his job, in which he is paid to do. In fact, he isn't very honest at all. The U.S. Animal Welfare Act has been amended in 1970, 1976, 85, 90, 2002, 2007, 2008, and 2013. Ask yourself, wouldn't someone whose job it is to promote animal welfare and is a State Director of the Humane Society know about the Animal Welfare Act? Do you think he forgot? No, he didn't forget. He's deliberately lying and deceiving the council. This is one of many examples of deliberate deceit to the council. Our business will actually help the local community. We'll employ up to 30 local workers, drive customers into Old Bridge. We're anticipating the store to have traffic of 12 to 20,000 visitors per month. We are forecasting to produce over $600,000 in tax revenue over the next 3 years and countless programs to help the organizations. The breeder letter that was read earlier was a very accurate depiction of a good breeder. These are the breeders that we will use. Okay, you heard several times that any good local breeder will not sell to a pet shop. Guess what? They can't. It's against the law. Pet shops cannot sell dogs from hobby breeders. So all the times you hear, they can't sell to pet shops, they can't, they won't. It's not that they won't, they can't. And yes, we do visit every breeder. And we do quarterly breeder trips across the country. Myself and my family and our staff will do that as well. And then also you heard a lot of investigations. If you look into those investigations by the Humane Society, a lot of them were not true. And when the investigations were done by local government officials, they were found to be faulty. And then you heard about spreads of diseases. Within the last 6 months, Eatontown SPCA was shut down for dog flu for several weeks, as well as the Trenton SPCA was shut down for a couple of weeks as well. And then the last thing is, you heard about the petition. Of all the 67,000 Old Bridge residents, 116 signed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Jr.?
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Joe Jr., Manalapan. Yes. Yeah. So in the last council meeting, we all saw the inappropriate behavior that was done by the extremists. The worst part of it is they're actually proud of what they've done. They're here tonight to do the same thing, bully and to intimidate people into doing what they want for their own personal gain. We are all aware at this point that the activists here are going off emotion and not facts. Not even one of them are able to list a single breeder we buy from, but still make claims that we're buying from puppy mills. They're desperately trying to get people to fight against us, literally begging people in several residence pages to come and speak tonight. They're just a handful of misinformed extremists who don't want to hear what anyone with an opposite opinion has to say. So I'm going to highlight some of the positive things that the store will be bringing to our community that these activists are trying to stop. We're going to draw up to 20,000 visitors to Old Bridge every month, and with this is going to increase the business to all other stores in Old Bridge. Also, there are many ways we plan on helping the Old Bridge shelter. We plan on having cats from the shelter available for adoption in prime locations in our store to be viewed by our thousands of monthly visitors. We will be coordinating several fundraising events, collections at the registers, and making frequent donations from shelters' wish lists. Additionally, the Old Bridge Police Department currently does not have a canine unit. Canine units obviously save lives and make our community safer, and we hope to work with the mayor to sponsor a canine unit for Old Bridge. These extremists are trying to take all these benefits we are going to provide to our community away from you. They don't care about Old Bridge. They aren't even from around here. The only thing these extremists care about is banning the sales of puppies so people have no other choice but to go to unregulated sources on the internet and puppy mills. As said earlier, if they really cared about animal welfare, they would go after the puppy mills that are abusing animals and scamming people every day, just like the puppy mill in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, in a town where there is a ban in place. So why weren't these activists trying to shut down that puppy mill? Instead, they go after pet stores, even though they are the most regulated source to get a puppy. And a little side note, it just amazes me that the lengths these activists have gone to find something wrong with the store. They're trying everything they can just to shut down the store. So they mentioned a concern with the township and the construction. We have nothing to do with this construction at all. That is between the landlord and the professional contracting company they hired. So what's concerning about this is how they acquired the photos. So they committed criminal trespass by entering a locked construction zone. Who else knows what they did when they were trespassing? So ultimately, it looks like the police might have to follow up with the individuals who presented the photos at the last council meeting. Thank you for your time.
Tom Gallo?
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Tom Gallo, Manalapan. It amazes me that a handful of people can make so much noise. And that's what they are, a handful of people. The majority of people in this township and local area are excited for the store to open. Our Facebook post showing the lies being spread versus the facts has reached over 15,000 people, 10,000 of those being Old Bridge residents. Our Facebook page as a whole has reached 55,000 local people, and we're not even open yet. I believe these activists started out with good intentions, but now I see they're doing this for their own personal gain. The Humane Society is orchestrating this whole attack on us and our store. They pay their state director to rally the troops and have him attend every meeting. We all saw how they acted last meeting. They spread false information and lies about me, my family, and my business, and are even inciting violence. They threaten and attack me on Facebook, people telling me that I should die, that I should burn, calling me names, all because I want to open a legal business. Interestingly, you don't see a single activist or the Humane Society commenting on these posts saying you shouldn't say that, okay? They instead encourage this behavior. The threats and false information that have been said to me have gotten so bad that we're at a point where lawyers are advising that I start filing police reports for all the threats I've received and start going after these activists for slandering my business and my name. The activists who were here last time were threatening to sue you at the drop of a hat. I was raised better than that. I believe in working hard to make an honest living. I'm not here to go after anybody. I'm here to open my business, which I've worked towards my entire adult life. My family and I took out loans, put our house on the line, everything we own, to open this business. This is the same game the activists play in every township. They try to bully and intimidate people into doing what they want. They make their threats and act like children. Last meeting, they called us communists, misogynists, and even sexist. They threw temper tantrums and threatened to sue you. They were harassing people while they were trying to speak and cursing at people in the halls. This behavior is completely unacceptable and shows the true colors of these activists. A simple solution for the people who are mad about the store opening: don't shop there. Don't threaten me and my family. Don't harass and threaten the council. Don't try to take away people's rights to choose where they get their next family member from. This store is going to be a destination for families all over New Jersey to bring their kids and actually interact with pets. This is not a pop-up store that will be here today and gone tomorrow. We have a long-term lease, a 6,000 square foot space in one of the nicest shopping centers in Old Bridge, the Shops at Old Bridge. This will be a high-end pet experience like you've never seen before. And some things I'd like to add: the 116 Old Bridge residents that signed the petition, out of the 67,000 residents, that's 0.0017% of residents, okay? I'd like to also add that showing a random video of a USDA licensed breeder who at no means meets the standard of what we view as okay, that's meaningless, okay? That's just some random breeder that we don't even buy from. How people can make accusations on our breeders when they don't even know the names of our breeders, let alone have visited one. Okay, we're not even open yet. How do they magically know who we're buying from? I'd also like to add, Janice Fisher, the one who called you communist last time, said that we use a company in Utah with interest rates of 151%. Think of that. I'd be rich. Okay, that's completely false. They just make this up. Okay, they come up with things to try to slander our name. Completely false. All right? I'd also like to add the council and mayor haven't answered my emails either. So they think we're getting special treatment. I don't get answers either. So that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and yell at the council. They're very busy people. They have a whole town to run. Okay? You sit here and harass them and threaten them. It's disgusting. Thank you.
Robert Ruggiero.
Excuse me, no comments. Person who makes a comment is going to be removed, okay? This is public comment. No one's going to make a comment when someone else is speaking. If you do, you're going to be removed. That goes for this part of the meeting, any part of the meeting. So be forewarned. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Girio. I live in sorry about that. I'm from Old Bridge Society Hill. I spoke last time, and since the last time I spoke, I actually have an interesting story. My brother, he just came back from the Marines. He's done. He wanted to buy a dog, but he had to go to a shelter. This is the dog he ended up getting from the Monmouth County SPCA. Very cute. Her name's Honey. She's a very sweet dog. Only thing is, let me read you the contract they had to sign after they got the dog. This is from the Monmouth County SPCA. These are some bullet points. I'm not going to read them all. I'm just going to give you the things. I'm going to pass them around. If I was a little bit smarter, I would have made copies. I'll just pass it around. Your pet, even though all pets adopted from the MSPCA are receiving medical care, your new pets shared the shelter with many animals. Your pet could be incubating kennel cough, upper respiratory disease, and parasites. Your new pet should be examined by your own veterinarian within 1 week of adoption. In the event your newly adopted pet becomes ill, all incurred medical expenses will be your responsibility. The MSPCA cannot guarantee the health or temperament of the animals adopted. And that proceeds to list, they're not liable, blah, 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 just the whole thing. The MSPCA will not refund the $550 adoption fee if the animal is returned with the MSPCA within 14 days of the adoption date of an illness that will require prolonged medical treatment a credit for another adoption when we get it. Not your money back, a credit. So we went to go pick up the dog. The dog had hives all over it from when it was spayed. It had a complication with the spaying from the Monmouth County. We had to hold the dog there. Then when we got the dog home, it became lethargic, lost mobility in its legs, and high fever. We brought it to the SPCCA for a $240 charge. They performed x-rays, which we paid an extra $80 to have rushed readings for the x-rays. The x-rays arrived 4 days later. We paid $80 for rushed readings. On the 4th day, she collapsed. She was rushed to medical Red Bank Animal Hospital, where X-ray labs were run, that she was suffering from a condition called panatosis, growing pains, inflammatory disease of the bones. She had fever of 104 and was unable to walk. The bill was $800 with a follow-up visit of $200. We were in over $1,500 for these dogs. Before this, we owned 2 dogs. One passed away a couple months ago, 17 years old. We got from a pet store. It didn't cost this money, half this dog's life, 17 years from a pet store. Hardy dog. Another dog, 15 years. Both terriers. Hardy dogs. We had to go to here because his store wasn't open at the time. So we came here. We incurred all the medical expenses within days of this. This is what our options were. We had no options. I have everything here. To comment on what they were saying, that, again, reiterating the Old Bridge residents page of 8,000 people. They posted another post last week, 4 likes. If I was to post that Donito's is the best pizza place around, I would get more interactions on that post than they got on this entire thing. It's the people of Old Bridge, they are excited for the store. I talked to the people in Society Hill. They're excited for the store. This poor dog, this very cute dog, but it was sick. And they tell you right away, as soon as you sign the dotted line, good luck to you. Thank you for your time, everybody. Have a good night.
Gil Morales?
Good evening.
Hi. Gil Morales, Manalapan. So I don't have a speech with me. I'm just going to kind of talk, just tell my own story a little bit on why I do support the pet store opening. I brought my dog Mango, Rhodesian Ridgeback. You can't really find that in a shelter or anything like that. Through breeder online. She came from Florida, little puppy, a couple months old when we got her shipped over here. She was shipped in a plane, a little crate, came with the cargo. We had to go to Newark Airport to pick her up. And I don't think that's anything any animal should have to go through, being shipped through a plane in a dark cargo hold. You know, and just to piggyback on the whole buying off the internet thing, she could have scammed us too. So we were kind of just rolling the dice on that one. We happened to be lucky. I know a lot of people aren't lucky when they purchase pets online. And that's why I support the pet store and what they have to offer to the not only Old Bridge, but the surrounding townships as well. Okay, you can go, you can see the dog, you can play with the dog, you can interact with the dog, and not just dogs, other animals as well, before you purchase them, before you put your good hard-earned money towards that animal. And not only that, but they do have, you know, warranties in place where if your dog does get sick, it gets taken care of. You know, my dog Mango was my best friend. You know, I wouldn't have wanted her to have to go through that plane ride more than one time. If I could have gotten her from a store like Petland, I certainly would have. Thank you.
Christina Gallo?
Good evening.
Good evening. Christina Gallo, Manalapan. Okay. I hear all these people talking about puppy mills and claiming that's where we're going to get our puppies from. We have asked repeatedly, have you been to our breeders? Can you name a single breeder where we get our puppies from besides the one listed in our video? No, they can't. I have been to several breeders with my family multiple times, and I've seen firsthand how these dogs are taken care of. All these dogs know their names, and the breeders know everything about each dog. Their favorite toys, their different personalities, and their quirky habits. The dogs are so excited to see the people just like your dog at home. They love to play and have big fields they can run in. When you go into the kennel, the parents run up to you, like they're proud to show you their puppy. Again, it amazes me that people can stand up here and state things that aren't true and act like they know where we're getting our puppies from. Because they obviously don't. They're showing you random videos, and that's just not accurate. As a 17-year-old that loves animals and supports my family, I would never support a puppy mill or anyone that supports them. Thank you for your time.
Roseanne? Roseanne, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name.
Andrews.
Oh, Andrews, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, Roseanne Andrews, 7209 Falston Circle. This has nothing to do with dogs. I've tried to mention this a few times. We were discussing garbage some meetings back. My complex has its own garbage collection and recycling. What I wanted to know, and I asked a board member, and they were not sure, and perhaps you can give me some information. In our property taxes, do we pay the full garbage fee to Old Bridge, or are we have some kind of a reduction because we do have our own carting?
Actually, the township doesn't pay for garbage. And residents have to contract for their own trash pickup.
Okay, that we do, but when it comes
So do the other residents.
But what happens with regards to the appliances, large furniture, and things of that sort?
Recycling you're talking about,
Yeah.
bulk pickup.
The-
We would
the-
still cover
the
that.
goods, Kyle, white goods.
They would still cover that.
Yes, the township will pick up white goods, which are your appliances, stoves, ovens, freezers, refrigerators, those type of items. Bulk items like couches, wood furniture, that would go through your garbage hauler.
But does that, are the costs for that, is that included in our property taxes? Or the county taxes? I'm not totally familiar with how things are here in New Jersey. I'm a former New Yorker.
The cost of the white goods pickup, obviously less, there is some revenue generated from those materials. The balance is to raise through our budget, so yeah, it's incorporated in your property tax.
Okay, thank you. Also, I would like to thank Mark Rizzoli for bringing to the attention, I don't know how many people are aware of HR 5383. Thank you. I've only heard it once on a TV show, and thank you for bringing it to attention. If anyone else wants to look it up, it's HR 5383. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Welsher?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Wexler. I'm from Manalapan Township. As an animal lover and owner myself, I'm excited to have a pet store in the area that I know I can trust. Before getting a dog, when I was about 10 years old, my parents allowed me to get a pet hamster to prove my responsibility. I was so excited to spend time with my new best friend, Hammy. What I didn't know was that my time with my hamster would be so short. I opted to get Hammy from a big box department store style pet store, which I will not name, and was unaware of how sick she was when I brought her home. At 10 years old, I only had 3 short months with my new best friend. Anyone who has ever had a pet, no matter the species, knows the bond that you have with your pet is absolutely unbreakable, whether that's a dog, a cat, a hamster, or a fish. I wish the employees of this big box department store style pet store took as good of care of Hammy as I did when she was in my property. Knowing Mr. Gallo and the entire Gallo family, I find comfort in knowing that there will be a local pet store who will take nothing but the best care of all of their animals, no matter the size. Not just dogs, not just cats, but smaller animals like reptiles, hamsters, and fish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Louis Trevelise?
Good evening.
Hi. Louis Trelevis, Manalapan. Regarding the animal rights activists in the room tonight, I have no doubt that that's a compassionate and caring group of people. Nobody likes puppy mills. No sane person would condone the kind of behavior that goes on in those places. So I just can't help but wonder, why not go after the puppy mills themselves, and why go after the pet stores? Someone in last month's meeting said, I think, there are 10,000 puppy mills open in the United States, and apparently that number hasn't gone down in quite some time. I can't help but wonder if maybe the time money and energy spent going after pet stores, I don't know, maybe that'd be better spent going after the puppy mills themselves. But ask yourselves, why is that not the case? One of the things that I think makes this country great is that you have the freedom of choice. And if someone decides that they would like a purebred dog for their family, well, then why shouldn't they be able to meet the dog first and bond with it and play with it and decide if it's a good fit for their family before purchasing it, as opposed to seeing a picture of a dog online and getting it shipped to your house without knowing, well, one, if the dog's healthy, or two, if it's the dog that you even wanted in the first place. So I just can't help but wonder if maybe those efforts would be better spent to go after and take down those puppy mills instead. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anthony Scaffa.
Good evening.
Evening. Anthony Scaffa, Manalapan. I'm going to be honest, I personally would never buy a dog. Me and my family have rescued dogs in the past. However, that being said, I know that there's countless people out there that want to purchase dogs, and they should be able to. I believe those people should be able to buy them from the Gallows store, where they'll ensure that the pets have happy lives. I've known the Gallows for about a decade, and there are very few people that I know that loves animals as much as Tom does. I've been to his house while he's fostered countless animals. I've seen how he treats each and every animal with love and care, and I know that he'll treat the dogs that he sells with the same love, affection, and care. He's volunteered with animals before, as well as worked in a vet's office. And simply put, Tom wouldn't allow his store to sell dogs from puppy mills. None of you know the Gallows, but I do, and I know just how much they genuinely care and that they put their time and effort into finding the best and most reputable breeders around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elder Hubbard.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Elda Hubbard. I am co-founder of Sammy's Hope. I've been here the last 2 months also to speak on behalf of homeless animals. Sammy's Hope is a nonprofit animal welfare that rescues dogs and cats from overcrowded animal shelters in New Jersey. Okay? More than 10,000 animals companion animals are euthanized each year in the state. In the beginning, at the prayer, Mr. Pasquitti said something that really moved me, and that is why I'm here, sir, okay? Because there's a lot of controversy here. There are those who want to open the pet store. There are those who believe that a pet store will be very damaging to the shelters and the rescues and all the volunteers who work so hard. I've been in rescue 16 years. I haven't made a penny in animal welfare. On the contrary, I donate my money to the rescues for the animals. But Mr. Paschitti's prayer said, give us the strength to uphold the right and oppose the wrong. That is all that I'm asking you to do. We were told at one of the meetings that rescues and shelters do not have quality pets. Well, I can show you some pictures of our quality pets, okay? I can show you, if you don't mind, okay? I can show you Louis, our boxer, who was adopted some years ago. He came from an overcrowded shelter. I can show you Blondie, our little Chihuahua. I can show you Callie, who also came from an overcrowded shelter. There were no kennels left for her. I can show you Zuki, a collie shepherd mix, who also came from an overcrowded shelter, and she's been adopted. I can also show you Matilda, a blue-nosed pit, okay, whom we care for dearly and has gone home already. I can show you Pharaoh going for a field trip in a car with one of our volunteers. I can show you Cookie outside in the summertime playing in a kiddie pool. I can also show you Terry, who came from a hoarding situation, and she's now found a loving couple to take her in. The contrast between rescues and puppy mills, it's really amazing, okay? Pet stores, as we all have heard, do not get their animals from mass breeding facilities. You can call them mass breeders or you can call them puppy mills. But these USDA licensed breeders do not do what we do. We clean kennels every morning, all volunteers. We feed them by hand, individually. We provide bedding for them with flannel beds on top so they're not cold and they're off the floor. We have playrooms where they play with tennis balls or rope toys. They get Kongs every day, okay? And they get walked at least 4 or 5 times a day by our 120 plus volunteers who come in every week. These are not names on the mailing list. What we're saying here, what they're trying to say is that what we do is worthless, that it doesn't really matter because they are not quality pets.
She's speaking.
Okay.
Thank you.
These are quality pets. 126,000 nearly of them have been adopted by families in New Jersey in the last 3 years. These families have not been duped by us, okay? I have a little Shih Tzu here, okay? He is Mr. Beans. Mr. Beans, that's our Shih Tzu. But here's a Shih Tzu from a Petland store, dead in a freezer. Mr. Wallace, our little Yorkie, adopted also. But here's a little puppy lying dead in a puppy mill. And I can read you the caption, but I only have 5 minutes, okay? Petland stores also have been found to have dead rabbits in their freezer. We don't handle rabbits, only dogs and cats. And our little Pomeranian who went to a dying girl, and this was her last wish, and we donated it to her.
Okay, thank you.
Morgan Spicer.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you guys so much for having this and allowing everyone to voice their opinion. I know that it's, I'm originally from Rumson, but I live in Atlantic Highlands. I know that taking an oath of office and representing your constituents is a huge task, and it does require a great amount of selflessness. So I appreciate everybody being here. There's a lot of division in the room. There's a lot of anger, and I do believe that there are people on both sides of the room that do love animals, and I don't think that there are bad people, only bad choices. I think that if Mr. Gallows would like to open his own store under his own name and work with the 200 New Jersey breeders that are here to have them showcase their animals, then that would be a fantastic business to run. I don't know that opening a corporate business such as Petland really does anything to help the work of countless nonprofits in New Jersey. I'm not paid to be here. I'm a small business owner, and I was raised by 2 small business owners. My father, who is a renter here in Old Bridge, he has a business here, and he spends more time here than he does with his family because it's tax season right now. He has a big, giant decal of Trump in his car, and I have countless Bernie stickers on the back of mine. We don't have a lot in common, but we do both love animals, and we both agree on this topic, that we can revitalize the community, we can help the nonprofits that are here, already here, the businesses that are working already on the ground here to try to help New Jersey and the animals that live here, and we can invest in those businesses, those small businesses in those communities. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I don't do a lot of public speaking because I am actually a children's book illustrator and most of my activism takes place behind a screen. I would like to read a short little part from a book that I created with another New Jersey resident, and we created this book with a nonprofit here in New Jersey that They adopt out specifically Shelties, which are purebred dogs. So I am not against purebred dogs at all. I grew up with one, and I think that going to a reputable breeder and meeting the mom and dad of a dog is a great experience for many children, and I think that we can have that, and we can adopt and rescue animals too. So here we go, if you don't mind. This book is about a little girl and a mom who adopted a Sheltie from this breed-specific rescue and then decided to foster other dogs so that the child in the home could learn about fostering. This new dog came home, and Anna asks, "Why is she so scared?" The mom says, "Cinnamon has been rescued from a puppy mill." Anna asks, "What's a puppy mill?" She says, "That's a place where people keep hundreds of dogs. The dogs spend their lives in small cages, they never know love or kindness, and they never have good food or clean water." "That's terrible," Anna explained. "Cinnamon should be happy to be away from there, but she doesn't look happy." "Cinnamon's puppies were taken away from her just days ago," Mommy said in a sad voice. "They were sent to pet stores. That's the only reason the other people kept her, so she would have puppies over and over again. Poor Cinnamon," Anna said. "We'll help her find her forever home, and she'll be happy." Like I said, I do not think that there are bad people in this room, and I think that everyone in this room shares a love for animals. I think that it's a time now that we all embrace a more compassionate future, and part of that means that we actually do bring emotion in when we bring animals into our home. Yes, the people on this side of the room might have a little bit more emotion, but that is because they do love animals so deeply, and we would love for people who want to bring animals into their home to use emotion when they do so, to go and meet the mom and dad of the puppy they want to adopt from a reputable breeder, or go to a rescue and save a life of an animal who would otherwise be euthanized or kept in a cage for a while. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maddie Giuliano.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Matty Giuliano. I am the chaplain for the Monmouth County SPCA in Eatontown, New Jersey. Before I address the issue of the evening, some things have been stated about the Monmouth County SPCA that I would like to be able to clarify. I know that there was a gentleman who was here earlier, I understand that he has left, discussing the enormous medical bills that his family incurred after adopting an animal from my facility. And I would love to ask him, but unfortunately he's gone, why it is he did not, or his family did not receive the 30 free days of Trupanion veterinary insurance that the Monmouth County SPCA offers to everyone who adopts a dog. I don't know whether his family didn't register to get the free insurance, or what exactly it is that transpired, but I'd really like to question and look over the medical expenses that he said that his family had to take on after adopting one of our animals. Earlier, Mr. Gallo referenced the fact that the Monmouth County SPCA was closed for most of the month of December, and it's true, we were. We had a bad case of canine influenza at the Monmouth County SPCA, and we did the responsible, ethical thing to do for all the animals, not just at our facility, but all the animals within our community. We shut down the Monmouth County SPCA because the last thing that we wanted was for anyone to come into our place looking to bring home a new animal companion and bring any contagious or infectious diseases home to the animals that they currently reside with them. And I don't know whether or not a corporate business model would ever do something like that, whether or not they would shut down their doors for a month and go through all that we went through at the Monmouth County SPCA in order to ensure that all the animals at our facility were safe and that the animals within our community were safe. Because that's what this really boils down to. It really all boils down to community. During the prayer, Mr. Pischetti referenced, know when to be silent and know when to speak. You have an awful lot of people that are here speaking this evening, and they're speaking in large portion against the opening of this store. You have 140 municipalities, many of which I've addressed, along with Brian Hackett and other people that are here this evening, to pass the puppy mill ordinance. One of them that passed it was Eatontown, where the Monmouth County SPCA is located. And we do this not because we don't love dogs. We all love dogs. That's the reason why we're all here. But we do this because we are still a country that is euthanizing 800,000 adoptable animals every year. That's the fact. That's the number. And by allowing a puppy store to open, you are potentially allowing that number to increase, as homeless animals will be unable to find new homes with new animals coming into the community. This is something that has been very, very personal to me. Part of the reason why is because I happen to have a puppy mill dog. My dog Daisy came from Missouri. She came in on a plane. She was a puppy mill's puppy mill. She's been the world's worst dog for 16 years. She bites everyone. I had to move out of one town because I was worried the mailman was going to sue me when my terrier chased him down the block and bit him on the leg. It's something, and now she is 16, blind, deaf, has doggy dementia, and has finally decided to mellow out. And this is what you end up having when you end up having a dog that comes from a commercial breeder. I'm here tonight speaking because I'm a firm believer in what St. Francis of Assisi said. Not to hurt our humble brethren is our first duty to them, but to stop there is not enough. We have a higher mission to be of service to them whenever they require it. And these animals require it. If Old Bridge were allowed this store to open, you will be going in the opposite direction of what is taking place in the state and what is taking place in the country. Granted, only 140 out of 566 municipalities have passed it. But 5 years ago, that number was maybe, 15? Now it's up to 120. Where will it be next year? Does Old Bridge want to be the one who didn't address this, who allowed a store to open in its jurisdiction? The only one to allow a store to open in 10 years? I think it speaks poorly on behalf of the community. And I want nothing but the best for Old Bridge and for everyone in the surrounding neighborhoods. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mark Schibak?
Schibak.
I'm not sure of your last name, Mark. I can't. S-C-H-B-A-C-H, I think?
Good evening.
Good evening. A little off topic. My name is Mark Schlau. I live in South Amboy. I'm here as a board member for the Sayreville Association for Brain Injured Children. We call it BIC.
Mark, I think you're a little ahead of the game. We're going to do an administrative report.
Wait.
Okay.
Don't take, yes, so,
Yeah.
thank you, Mark.
Nina Jackowitz?
Good evening.
You folks kill me on the council, by the way. I'm Nina Jachnowitz, 203 West Greystone Road, Old Bridge, New Jersey. Although I'm not here on behalf of all the folks who are trying to stop a puppy mill store from opening up, I want to make a comment on what I was listening to. The first thing is anybody who disagrees with a puppy mill store coming into the town is called an extremist or an aggressive activist. I don't see any of the people here threatening the Gallo family. Have you? Nobody. That's first. So stop it, you folks. You want to have a conversation?
Excuse me, address council.
Okay,
please.
so
Thank you.
council, you should stop the misspeak of people who are saying that the people who are trying to help dogs, for whatever reason, are being rude and nasty to these people who've come here from all over. And by the way, the Gallo families from Manalapan, they're not local Old Bridge people. They keep talking about that they're local. Why not open it up in Manalapan? There's a lot of stores on Route 9. Anyway, I'm here really to talk about something else. It's actually about a building that's in the zone, that's going up in the zoning department, which is going to be on Route 18. It's going to be on the northbound side. It is going to be a 5-story structure, which is going to need rezoning. It is only zoned for 2 stories in that area. It's a floodplain. It is going to be housing handicapped people with no location for them to walk to. There are no sidewalks. 24 of the 58 parking spots will be for the attendants who live there. There are resident houses, Murphy. There are going to be another, about just under 30 parking spots that are going to be for the employees and for anybody who's visiting. It's going to be an overstuffed parking lot. There is no parking outside of there. I think you guys should come in attendance to the March 11th meeting at 6 o'clock upstairs. It's not so far away. You guys, room 201. The lawyer is going to be hosting it for this organization. And by the way, the interesting part about the company that's going to be building this, or is going to attempt to build it, is that the Republican Party hosted their office in their complex. I find that really interesting. They have no history in building facilities for urgent care, emergent care, or safety for disabled people. They have no history. I looked them up. Vision Old Bridge, they have 1 building, which only has 30% occupancy at this point. 30% of residents occupying the apartments, and less than 33% of stores occupied. I just drove over there tonight. You can look.
I'm hosting it.
John, excuse me, John.
You know, actually, it said the attorney was going to be there, but that's okay. I appreciate you actually speaking up. It's okay, John. I'm cool with that. You know that. Anyway, I would love to see, if John is hosting it, Councilman Murphy, that the rest of the committee come in attendance, because you guys should learn about what they want to do. He spoke, by the way, in the corridor to me and said, I'm not for it, but he obviously is because he's hosting it. There are, by the way, 4 facilities within 1 square mile that already take care of disabled and handicapped elderly populations, as well as housing for single-room occupancy for elderly patients. They are Care One in East Brunswick, which is 1.5 miles away, Roosevelt Care Center, which you guys all know because a third of the board was already on when it was designed and put up. We also have the Sunrise Senior Housing, which is not even 1 mile away. And then finally, the Reformed Church of Old Bridge, which is a brilliant facility. Everybody who's here, who's had a family member who needed care post-operatively and needed to go in, they went to Roosevelt. I tried to get my father into Roosevelt 4 times. I ended up in Care One, which is fabulous as well in East Brunswick, but it's not Roosevelt. We know that there's already great facilities. The only buildings in Old Bridge that are 5-story are the hospital. This is going to be a blight. This is going to be they don't have any plans in place for the floodplains. The road, there is nothing there that is set aside for safety. There's going to be a 10-foot corridor of the building to Route 18. So if residents do escape, and they do, and we all know this. I mean, I have a mother who has Alzheimer's disease, and I have her at Parker House because, by the way, Parker House is the best, but I'm not supposed to market those things. Anyway, it is. It's really great. But the reality is the security is going to be 10 feet. They're going to have 10 feet easement instead of a 50-foot easement, by the way. I'll stop. I'll air the last 30 seconds to one of the.
Thank you.
Alan Baslow.
Good evening.
Good evening. Alan Braslow, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. A couple of things I wanted to point out to you. Mr. Gallo was talking about deceit and extremists and own personal gain and blah, 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 which is typically what you hear when no one has any facts to share. This costs me money professionally and personally every time I have to drive up here from Cherry Hill to do a presentation. I make no money supporting rescue. I make no money supporting the 220 quality AKC breeders that are in the state of New Jersey, which Mr. Gallo says there is no source for AKC and choice. I don't know what you call 220 quality breeders in the state of New Jersey. One of the individuals mentioned that she had read to you a letter that one of the breeders had written. They're afraid to show up because they're afraid of the harassment they get from the pet stores. I'm going to be having lunch with one of them down in Millville. That's not a far drive. It's an hour and a half if you really want
So
to.
again, direct your comments to council.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
When we talked about Let's see, no breeders won't sell. Part of their ethics, part of their ethics with the AKC is that they are not supposed to sell, and they take a pledge never to sell to a puppy store because they feel it's against the best interests of the puppies. They care about the dogs. They want to make sure that they are taken care of, that they find the right homes. Where they said shame on Scotch Plains, absolutely. That woman should spend time in jail. I will be in Chemung in 2 weeks because we went after an individual, which is part of what we do, who was breeding and is going up on criminal charges. And Donna Roberts, if you read about her, she will be sentenced within the next month for criminal charges. We do that too because that's what has to happen. Protesting at puppy mills. We do go to protest at puppy mills. There's 10,000 of them. I hate to think what I've spent going to protest those sorts of things. When it comes to, they talked about supply and demand. 10,000 puppy mills. Anyone here is a business person, they know that the way you get rid of supply is by eliminating the demand. If people don't buy the product, it doesn't sell, and people don't make it anymore. As a veterinarian, you probably know Coaxis Bayer is closing down their Coaxis, which is a great medication. My vet just told me I won't be able to get it anymore because they're going for something else. The demand wasn't there, the supply goes away. I am not in favor of online buying, totally agree. Anyone who buys online is an absolute idiot. And I mean, you're too lazy to go and look at a dog. Again, 220 breeders just in the state of New Jersey. Delaware's not that far if you really want to take a drive. We got our pug from a breeder, very lovely family in Pennsylvania. We got our German Shepherd from a breeder in South Jersey. We got our chocolate lab from a breeder in New Jersey. It's not that hard. And I have rescues. All my dogs right now are rescues. One thing I wanted to add, I was doing some research because Petland has got such a horrible reputation, and I wondered whether, Mr. Gallo and his family actually knew some of this, but this was very interesting. This was a study from July of 2012, and you can find it on the internet. That's where we pull everything else up. I don't bother going on Facebook because that's just people yelling and screaming at each other because they don't have the guts to stand up and talk to somebody. But if you look, it says Petland U.S. franchise locations declined 34% since 2008 from 125 to 82 units. They also said Petland store franchise has an alarming high SBA loan default rate of 56%. Petland is listed by the Small Business Administration among the, quote, worst franchises by SBA loan default. Man, I don't want one of those guys moving into Cherry Hill because you know who's going to have to suck up what it costs us to eat the empty rental that's going to be there for a realtor friend. This was the one that really got me. According to the complaint, and this I'll give you guys this so you can read it. I know I sent it to you. Dr. Jones and this guy, Bob Hyde, members of the class were fraudulently induced to purchase failing Petland franchises, and it goes on, and it talks about exorbitant termination fees, and then this was the best part. Petland looks to flip the store by inducing new unwary franchisees into purchasing the franchise that is similarly doomed to fail. This sign-up and shut-down modus operandi is a concerted scheme to defraud franchisees while reaping excessive punitive and penalizing profits through the extortion of unlawful liquidated damages against unwitting and soon financially broke franchisees. Again, 56% failure on SBA loans. I would love to see him open his store. I would love to see him be profitable. I would like him to do it without the cruelty of puppies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cindy Knowles. Sure.
Hello.
Good evening.
Cindy Knowles. I live in Tewksbury, New Jersey. I'm the owner of Furrylicious. Just a couple of things. We know that there's a lot of untruths. There's some right here. We heard that no pet store has opened in the last 10 years in New Jersey. Not true. We've been open about 8.5 years. Thriving business from day one. We have been growing, just like I said last time. We have people coming from all over. not just into our town from local. We have people coming from the tri-state area, Florida. People fly up from Florida. I've sent a puppy as far as Istanbul, Turkey, with somebody flying into New York for it. So consumers want their choice to be able to get a puppy, a purebred, a mixed breed puppy of their choice, a healthy one. I know a lot of pet landowners. They're very good business people. That's why we're here to support the Gallows. We see the pet land owners at different events we go to. We were just down at Global Pet Expo. In fact, we just met with the USDA down there and got some insight into the different things they're doing and what's going on within the USDA. I also heard the gentleman came up from the Monmouth County SPCA. If that was one of our dogs, we would be totally on the hook for that puppy or for that dog, up to 2 times the cost, 3 times the cost if the puppy should pass away. He said that they can go get the Trupanion insurance. Trupanion requires a vet certificate first to deem the pup in good health before they will put Trupanion insurance. It's like putting, walking in and after you had the car accident, putting the insurance on. You can't do that. Trupanion would not have covered those bills. So that's the difference between buying from a pet store where you are covered by consumer protection in the state of New Jersey and dealing with the unregulated rescues and shelter model. Just to show you a little bit about what we go through, I wanted to just clarify so you can see the regulations in New Jersey. Every puppy in my store, in the Gallows store, has had to have this kennel card present for every puppy. It states the know your rights and the regulations in New Jersey. That has to be on every kennel card. The breeder transparency, the broker, if there's a broker involved, has to be displayed with every puppy. The microchip, the arrival date, the breed, the whelp date, the sex, this is all required by state regulations on every puppy that is in our shop. In addition to that information, the current USDA documentation has to be available, unredacted, for anybody to be able to look at when they come in to purchase a puppy in the store. Again, all state regulations that a puppy store is under in the state of New Jersey, no rescue, no shelter has these types of regulations, especially for the 2 times or 3 times the cost of the dog. The full medical record with veterinary history goes home with the puppy. There is no full transparency of that medical history with the dog, or the puppy in this case. I actually happen to own an animal hospital as well. One of the hardest things when the pets come in for the veterinarians in the practice is the fact that there's just no records for these dogs. Our dogs go out with full disclosure. The Know Your Rights statement has to be signed off, explaining to the consumer the regulations and how they are covered and what their course of action is if their dog should get sick once they take it home. Pet health warranty with that documentation in there. The animal history certificate has to go and be signed off by the store and the customer. All of our puppies are microchipped. The microchip is registered. Health certificate from the veterinarian. A veterinarian has to check our puppies once, at least every 14 days. And this health certificate has to be updated, has to go home with the puppy. Certificate of registration for the microchip goes out. I am so tired of hearing that the AKC doesn't support breeders or our puppies in our store. AKC fully supports us. They come into our stores. You probably already got a letter from the AKC, how they support us and how they support and deal with our breeders. And then what blows me away is OFA certificates and genetic testing.
Thank you.
Genetic testing on the parents.
Jeff Morton.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name's Jeff Morton. I am the owner of Shake a Paw Pet Stores in Union and Greenbrook, New Jersey, as well as one of the founding members of the New Jersey Coalition of Responsible Pet Stores. One thing that is a little bit overlooked, I think, is the amount of inspection and regulation that our stores go through. We all know about the zoning and the construction and everything that has to be done before we open up our businesses. But once we're open, we're still subject to significant regulation and inspection from a large variety of government officials. So I'm not even going to talk about the USDA at this point. But you've got your local health officer. They come in every year, they do a full inspection, and they'll sign off if there's anything good or there's anything bad. That's their job of the health officer. You've got your county health officer. They also have the full authority to come in at any time without notice for a full inspection. You've got the New Jersey State Department of Animal Welfare with our state veterinarian. They also have full authority to come in anytime, unannounced, for a full inspection. You've also got the Division of Consumer Affairs. Now, the DOCA has significant authority in regards to the inspection of all of our stores. So even with these 4 or 5 different agencies that have inspected our stores, at least for all the stores in our coalition, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, not one government inspector has found a puppy mill dog as defined by New Jersey state law in any of our stores. 0, not one. You would be sure the activists would throw those pictures up and tout them as to how bad and how evil we are, but that's simply not true, and that's a fact. That's their job to inspect us. They certainly inspect us all the time, and the results is that our businesses are legal, licensed, and thriving quite a bit. Like Cindy just mentioned, we were just down in Orlando at a pet convention, and one of the things we do as business owners is we travel, and we meet breeders, and we meet businesses, and that's how you grow any small business, and that's especially in the live animal business, where we're under such scrutiny with our breeders to do the right thing. Yes, we do travel multiple times a year to multiple places. That's what we do. That's our job. That's my job as a store owner, is to make sure that we're sourcing our dogs respectively, responsibly, and humanely. So while we're down in Orlando, I had the opportunity to meet with some of the executives of Petland. They are fully supportive of the Gallows and are offering all of their wealth and knowledge to make their franchise successful. I can't really speak to the negative things that were said about Petland. It's a big company, and in live animals, it can sometimes be a challenge to care for animals at any given time. But I'm very confident that with support of our coalition and with the support of Petland Corporate and Safari Stands, that once this store opens, I'm sure you're all going to come visit. It will be a success for your community and a success for your residents. Thanks very much.
Loretta Windus.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Loretta Windus, and I live in Matawan Borough, and I am a volunteer for the HSUS, and I'm also the senior member of the Matawan Borough Animal Advisory Committee. And as such, Matawan is one of the towns that has enacted a prohibition on the opening of any new retail outlets that sell animals. And that brings me to my first point, and that being that a lot of the people who have spoken tonight, or who just in general are animal welfare advocates, have been labeled extremists. But I would ask you, do you think that the mayor and councils of the 140 plus towns that have passed this prohibition, of both Republicans and Democrats, are they a bunch of extremists too? or maybe they were listening to their constituents. Secondly, I'd like to say that groups like the HSUS that go after puppy mills, instead of going after pet stores, they try to do this, and the operators of puppy mills shift their business names or their ownership licenses to other family members, and it is very difficult to actually go after a puppy mill for whatever violations because they change things around and they shift things. And as Mr. Braslau mentioned, another reason that the puppy mill operators are more difficult to go after is because the simple law of supply and demand. It's economics 101. They supply to the demand, and the demand for these puppy mill animals comes from the pet stores. But if you cut off the supply, then the demand can't get it. I'd also like to add that a lot of us are not against this store opening per se. We are pro-business and we are pro-consumer also, but we are opposed to it selling animals. Selling puppy mill animals is an inhumane business model. So you've been presented with an abundance of information regarding pet land violations and the horrendous conditions that the animals who are used to supply pet stores have to endure. So there's nothing I can add. I know that things have been sent to you and handed out tonight and emailed and so on. So I would like to end by saying that if this store's proponents are truly supportive of animal welfare, why not use their platform to find homes instead for shelter animals? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah DeVoe.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sarah DeVoe, and I am a resident of Old Bridge. I am here to respectfully urge you to pass an ordinance banning the retail sale of dogs and cats in Old Bridge. California and Maryland have been among the most recent states to enact laws that ban the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats, with the critical goal of reducing the suffering of animals bred in mass-producing puppy mills and kitten mills. New York may be the next to follow suit. The consequences of selling puppies and kittens who come from inhumane mass breeding facilities cannot be understated. With our presence here tonight, we hope it is clear that the concern is centered around the protection of innocent animals as well as the protection of citizens who may be purchasing ill or under-socialized pets. Many of these pets come from illegitimate breeders and mass-produced mills that seek to gain only profit. This type of activity is always at the cost of the animal's health and is a risk to the animal and the family. Beyond that, the animals used for breeding in these scenarios are neglected and consistently suffering. This action should be viewed as an opportunity for pet stores that seek to follow this business model of using mass breeding facilities to rebrand themselves as compassionate businesses that place pets over profits, working with local resources such as rescues and shelters to help place and adopt pets. It is our hope that the Township of Old Bridge would not permit business practices that support the suffering of animals and risk some families may be unknowingly taking on. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Isabel Gallo.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all for attending. I just want to say that I keep hearing puppy mills, puppy mills. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Isabel Gallo. I just want to say that I'm very proud of my family. We have endured a lot, and I guess the reason why we call people extremists is because I've never in my life seen such harassment online towards my family. My son has been working on this for 2 years. I know him personally, obviously, I'm the mother. His whole life, he has such a passion And I know that as a family in whole, we will not sell dogs from puppy mills. They come up and say the facts. I'm learning about the animal world, and I'm not that familiar with it, but they come and show you the facts. You have business owners, and they tell you there's regulation after regulation. And then I hear right after them that you're getting dogs from puppy mills. It's not true. You know, you need to listen to the facts. My son constantly is stating the facts. He constantly reaches out to groups. We would like to help the rescues, the shelters. Every time he's reached out to talk to people on the opposing side, they give him such resistance. It's their way or no way, okay? America doesn't work like that. And I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Excuse me. Next, we go to council comments. Council members on my left.
You think? Okay.
Council members on, yes, Mr. Merck, all right.
I'm going to run out of sheets. For Matthew, an update on the lights in Lawrence Harbor.
Yes, Councilman Merwin. We received quotes back from Quality Electric. Quality Electric should be getting started within a week to 2 weeks. We're also including on there the light by the flag.
Okay.
We passed a local enforcement zone over there in Amboy Road and Des Brown stuff. And I'm hearing that we put the signs up, the county complains they took the signs down. They put the signs back up, now I hear they're back down.
The sign was taken down by the county?
No, they were taken down evidently by us because the county complained and
All right, well,
my understanding that they fit into the Bible of the traffic enforcement officers thing on where they could be hung, their informational signs, and could you check and let us know?
We'll follow up with the police department.
So I think Nicole was aware of it, but she's not
I've
here,
seen a couple of them up. Some of them are still up. We'll find out exactly.
All right. And I got to thank Kyle and his, but most of all, the guys that had to climb into the pipe and clean it out down at Sunset Lake. Evidently, we had, they weren't aware that they were supposed to be cleaning it, and so we had quite a few years of debris in there, and they did a hell of a job. And I think as soon as they opened it up, it dropped how many feet?
Dropped almost 2 feet in a 24-hour period after we cleared the pipe out. And nobody was climbing into the pipe. We had a long hook to get the material out.
Sure, take the thunder away from the guys, right? And if we could, if maybe we can contact the state park along Matawan Road where where Cheesequake Park is. It looks terrible. There's so many trees down now. There's more trees fell on top of the fence and broke the fence, and we go through this all the time. If they just clean it up maybe once and for all, we could get it. And John's not here, but I had sent an email because I had a friend of mine inquire about some street lights on Van Tynes Lane.
I forwarded that information to engineering to review the situation. I drove down Van Tyne Lanes.
A little dark.
I went down to Van Tynes Lane and did not see any streetlights. So we'll find out why they're not up there.
All right. That's all on my end.
Okay. Anyone else on my left? Anyone on my right? Okay, so we'll close the council comments, and now we're going to do please.
Yes.
Listen to the microphone. Sit here. We'll be here. We'll share this one. Thank you, council. I didn't want to put this on the presentation in the beginning of the
Thank you.
meeting as a takeaway from the public portion.
No,
This
good
is part of the
evening.
administrative report. As you remember last month, our last council meeting, I mentioned that the Sayreville BIC, Marcus here representing, is honoring a young man from Old Bridge as their honoree this year. Our young man is confined to a wheelchair, and he has very limited mobility. Our goal this year is allow this family to take care of him at home. The house needs to be remodeled to allow for this to happen to his family, be able to take care of him. We need modern ramps. We need bathroom. We need door openings that wheelchairs can fit through. Rooms need to be made larger. So I ask you tonight that you open up your hearts to this family, along with opening up your wallets. I'm going to be putting in your mailbox, I will forward to the clerk's office, the invitation to the event, which is April 5th, to attend. I will also be issuing ad for the Journal. We're working with the Chamber of Commerce. I will be taking out an ad, a full-page ad, for the mayor and council. I would ask if maybe you'd think about doing it individually as council members. And please, I ask you to join me at the Grand Marquis on April 5th to support the BIC, who is going out of Sayreville for the first time, I believe, Mark?
First time our Child of the Year is from Old Bridge. We've honored children from other towns.
So,
But we do have participants in our program from Old Bridge.
yes. So, Mark, if you want to say a few words about the organization, I can tell you this is where I got started in community, giving back to the community in the 90s when Mark and friends approached me and asked me to help, and I've been helping ever since.
Yes.
It's a very worthwhile organization, and I certainly encourage anyone looking for a reputable organization to donate to. If they want to find an organization, this would be one, if not the one. Our local Elks support this organization with the BIC Run coming up. You see those big checks that the Elks do. Most of our organizations do.
Half of it goes Camp Robin.
Camp Robin, half and goes to Sayreville. So, Mark, if you want to say a few words about the organization, its history, and what you're trying to accomplish this year.
Just a few things you may not know is that the Sayreville BIC was actually founded in 1969. We're in our 52nd year right now. We rely specifically on donations from the community and donations from civic organizations, some money from local government. But two of our biggest fundraisers that we put on are the golf outing and the charity ball. And what we do with the charity ball is we select a child every year, and he'll be the face of our organization for the year. And just so you know, I have the permission of the family to mention his name in case I mention it. His name's James Martin. Mom and Dad work very, very hard to provide those things that James needs. James is growing up. He's getting to be a bigger person now. He's non-ambulatory, and Mom and Dad manhandle him to get him around the house and for his bodily functions and so forth and so on. And I know they're just getting a bigger wheelchair now, and the openings, like the front door opening and the opening into their powder room and stuff like that, it's just not going to be able to accommodate him. And when Mom manhandles him in the powder room a little bit, it's just so tiny. We need to do something there. They're fully engaged. Mom and Dad are fully engaged with James. They spend all of their time taking him swimming, taking him, I believe they call it rhinotherapy. It's where they put him on the horse, and it's for balance and like that. They have a special vehicle to transport him. What we really need is to try and offset the cost of doing these renovations. every year, the child that we select, we try and do something that is outside of insurance, what insurance would cover. And we've provided all different kinds of things through the years, but this is what they really need, and it's their urgent need at the moment, and it's what we're going to try our best to provide for them. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for coming and sharing that with us.
Council, just as a side note, if you attended last year's Old Bridge Little League grand opening, James was the individual who threw the first pitch out.
Yep, he threw the
And I
first
spoke
pitch.
about him the following day.
Yes, you did.
And I guess it struck a chord. And so we thanking you all in advance. Please come out and
We
support
thank you
this
for
great
all the work, the hard
organization.
work that the BIC does.
It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's Palm Sunday. It is a formal event. It is it's quite the place to be on a Sunday afternoon in Old Bridge.
Thank you again, though, for coming and sharing. It's so appreciated. You do great work. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Again, Council.
Do we have any report of the clerk?
Yes. Okay. This is regarding the elections. If you had a vote last trip by provisional ballot, because when you got to the polls, they had said that you were marked as a vote-by-mail voter in the book. If you didn't request a vote by mail and want to vote on the voting machines, you have to be sure to opt out. We have the forms in the office. They're simple forms. All it needs is your name and your address and your signature. We will even take them from you and get them to the county clerk. It's a very simple thing to do. The only thing is, if you're going to vote in the primary, we have to have it before March 23rd because that's the deadline date. Right? If you don't vote in the primary and you want to vote in the general election and you want to be sure that you're not going to be classified as a voter by mail, you have to get it back to us by August 24th, no later, or we can't get it in on time. So if you are a vote by mail person right now and you don't want to be, my suggestion to you is start coming in now and filling out the forms. The earlier the better. This way we're sure that they're in place when the primary comes. Okay? That's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stella. Can I have a motion to accept?
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg-Belli, second by Mrs. Walker.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscatty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of the attorney.
No report, Madam President.
Next will be budget introduction.
The administrative report.
Oh, sorry. Administrative report, I apologize.
Budget was,
Yeah, but it's listed the other way.
Mr. President, the administrative report for March 2nd, 2020. Item number 1, Junior Knights Alumni Charity Game on Saturday, February 15, 2020, at the John Piccolo Ice Arena. Our Junior Knights partner with the New York Rangers to host an alumni charity game. There were 4 New York Rangers alumni who participated in the game: Stephen Matthew, Brian Mullen, Darren Langdon, and Dan Blackburn, along with many Junior Knights coaches and alumni. Mayor Henry did the ceremonial puck drop, and the Junior Knight raised over $30,000. Item number 2, Health and Wellness Special Workshop. Mayor Owen Henry and the Mayor's Health and Wellness Council invite all local businesses, owners, and organizations to join them on Thursday, March 5th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the Old Bridge Public Library to participate in a special workshop that is designed to network, collaborate, and develop new programs that promote health and wellness in Old Bridge based on a need of the community. All are invited to bring any material that your business or organization may have about goods, service, and program you are developing or currently offering. For further information, please call 732-721-5600, extension 2060. Item number 3, full-day summer camp registration. The Township Before and After Care program will open online registration for their full-day summer camp program. The Tiny Turtle Camp will register on March 10th. The Shark Camp will register on March 11th. The middle school will register on March 12th. Item number 4, 2020 municipal and capital budgets. With the two council budget subcommittee meetings concluded and the final meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 5th, 2020, formal presentation and public hearing on 2020 municipal and capital budgets are scheduled for March 16, 2020 council meetings. Item number 5, Middlesex County residential paper shred. On Saturday, March 21st, 2020, the Township of Old Bridge will be hosting paper shred event from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the municipal complex. This mobile paper shredding service is open to all Middlesex County residents. This is for confidential documents only. All other paper and junk mail can be placed in your recycling container for regular pickup. For additional information, residents should contact the recycling department at recycling@oldbridge.com. Item number 6, Mayor's second annual 5K Kids Race Run for Our Heroes. On behalf of the Mayor and Health and Wellness Council in a collaboration with All Around Old Bridge, we're pleased to announce the Mayor's second annual Health and Wellness 5K and Kids Race Run for Our Heroes. The race is scheduled for Saturday, March 28, 2020, with the kids' race begin at 8 a.m. and a 5K following at 8:30 a.m. The Health and Wellness fair will be set up in the library parking lot from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., so please be sure to visit all the local businesses and organizations who will be handing out giveaways, hosting a variety of activities. Also, anyone who would like to volunteer for the event and receive community service hours are also invited to sign up. Item number 7, 2020 Junior Unity Bicycle Tour. Also on Saturday, March 28, 2020, we're pleased to have the James A. McDivity Elementary School host their 2020 Junior Unity Tour. The purpose of the Junior Unity Tour team is to raise awareness of the law enforcement officer who have lost their lives in the line of duty. McDivitt is inviting all elementary students grade K-5 to ride their bicycle to help raise money for National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial and Museum. To register for 5K 2020 Junior Unity Bicycle Tour, a table at Health and Wellness Fair, or to volunteer for 5K, please log on to oldbridge.com/events for the 5K or call extension 2060 for more information. Item number 8, recycling right. As a reminder to Township residents, State of New Jersey is strictly enforcing recycling laws and regulation. Recyclable in plastic bags are not acceptable. No plastic bags of any kind or any color can be used at the curb or they will be rejected. Contaminated recyclable can also be rejected. Download the new Recycling Coach app to learn more about how to recycle right. You can also set up scheduling reminders, storm alerts, and more. Information on the app can be found on our website at oldbridge.com/recycling. Item number 9, Old Bridge Home Improvement Program. The Township of Old Bridge invites you to apply to the Old Bridge Home Improvement Program. If you live in Old Bridge, you own home, or your total gross annual household income falls below the income limit for your household size, you may be eligible to participate in the program. Eligible uses of funds includes heating and electrical system, roofs and plumbing system components, foundation, windows, and insulation, and more. For more information, visit our website or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Anyone, any council member on my left for comment? Mr. Merwin.
Own. You asking me about a home improvement program?
Are they grants or are they loans?
They are grants.
Well, actually, the home improvement program, I think it's a loan, but if you're in your residence, oh, there's a number of years, I'm sworn, I don't remember it is, then you don't have to repay it. But I think you have to be there at least 10 years for the home improvement program.
Do we have that number on the income, or we can get that online?
It's online, and certainly our consultant can provide the information.
Okay, anyone else on my left? Anyone on my right? I'll take a motion to accept. Moved by Dr. Greenberg-Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg? Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscatty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shaw. Okay, next will be the budget introduction. No, wait,
Oh.
what are we going to do?
There is no budget.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Next is going to be our consent agenda. First, I'd like to get a motion and a second.
Move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg. Is there anyone in the audience for separations? Council? Separations, council? Okay, go ahead. Acknowledging everyone, okay?
So I'll do C15.
All righty.
What was that?
C15. Mr. Murphy, did you have something to say?
No, somebody else is going to talk about it.
Okay, anyone else on my left for separation?
C1 and C2.
Is that it on the left? Okay, how about on my right? Anyone for separation this evening? No, seeing no hands, then I will ask to pass the balance, please.
I move it.
Second.
By John, by Mr. Merwin.
All right, it's for the balance.
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes, except for extension on C4 and C16.
C4.
Wait.
What was that?
So she
Abstaining on
separate.
C4 and C16.
All right, so she separated,
No.
no, no, sorry, no, abstain.
she's not
Yeah,
separating.
that's
No,
what-
that's-
abstaining,
yeah.
okay? Okay.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscatty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.
No, not nine, no, not nine, yes.
It's not 9 yet.
Oh, all right.
It's 9 yes with respect to.
With respect
C4
to
and
C4 and C16. All right.
All right?
Yeah.
Now we
I
got the right,
guess.
okay. Next will be C1, Mr. Merwin.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are the same. They're both the same architect, and they both have an increase.
Yeah, I can explain.
Okay, please.
The C1 is for the inspection services. It's not, the design, they did the design work, and now we're in the process of construction phase, and it did include the inspection services. So this portion is for the inspection services. Because,
I think the term Mr. Shaw is looking for is to oversee the construction, to make sure that they're doing what's on the drawing, so when it does get inspected by our inspectors, it passes. So it's the construction oversight.
you got confused with the inspection, it's not.
We're going to be
our
inspecting the work that the contractors are doing to make sure they can pass the inspections. Yes.
The item number 2 is, the reason for this increase is because the State Historical Preservation Organization has required certain changes in the plan and for our project. So we needed a modification, and that's what the changes are.
Anybody else? Okay. Moved by Mr. Merwin.
Second.
No, second by Mr. Murphy. He had already second. Thank you. Well, he said he'd do both, but we're going to do C1 and then C2.
together.
Together.
Yes.
C1 and C2 together.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscatty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Sol.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes.
just for Hamachu, because I always told him I would recognize him, there was 3 other ones, there was a decrease in the contract. So we would like to recognize those for the,
Glad you recognize
all
that.
right.
Okay, so noted. Okay.
9 yes.
All right, next will be C15, Mrs. Brown.
Okay. So as I discussed last time briefly, rather at our last meeting on February 10th, some of the work I do outside of the council, I've been doing for over a decade, is around mental health awareness. I have a psychology degree, and it's really important to me that we highlight the need for having less stigma around mental illness and awareness and all that, especially with I guess we could say there's been an increase of suicide with children that are below the age of like 18, which is really horrible. So I think, it's not as popular, but it's definitely something that needs to be discussed and highlighted. So that being said, one of the proclamations that a lot of towns have passed is the anti-stigma campaign. What this does is, and I'll tell you briefly because it's long, but essentially, it's just for towns to publicly recognize that they are a community that supports mental health wellness. Mental health and wellness, rather, and also that they are committed to raising awareness around mental health issues. So I wanted us to go ahead with this proclamation. It's very similar to other proclamations that the mayor has put up for things like, what have we had? We have like happy, bicycle day or something. They're very similar to that. It's not so binding, but it just is just an external message to let everyone know that we care about mental health and wellness. So what can we do after doing this proclamation? We don't want to just do the proclamation, say a few words, and walk out the door. Some of the things we can actually do are to rally local businesses, service groups, and community service organizations and leaders, kind of get them together in the same room to brainstorm about ways that they can promote mental wellness. Also, we can have a town hall meeting to discuss these issues. I believe the mayor's health and wellness campaign is working on doing this currently, so we just want to extend that a little bit further. We are not, as a council body, really connected to the school district, but maybe working together and partnering with them to create some type of mental health campaign for the schools, which is really important. So one other thing I do want to mention, though, I am on a couple boards with NAMI, one of their public policy boards, but also their board that helps with mental wellness for different communities of color. So we have within NAMI, New Jersey, South Asian group, we have an African American group, and all different cultures that stigma is really, really difficult to push aside just because culturally it's not discussed. People don't go to therapy in certain cultures. It's not discussed. If someone has a mental health disorder, they're usually kind of like pushed to the side and it's like, deal with it, who cares? So I'm on a board that helps to debunk stigma and help people of different cultures to be comfortable with that. So what we can do, like I said, is to just get out there and let our town be known that we do support people with mental health challenges and that we want to help them in any way we can. So the proclamation I sent to the other council members, I won't read the whole proclamation here, but that's why it's on the agenda tonight. So I just wanted to explain briefly what it means, and that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else have any?
Resolution long.
No.
It basically sounds, we as a council, I don't know if this is true or not, will go to schools and almost.
No.
Okay, that's what I want to know what it says.
Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscatty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Next will be ordinance for first reading.
Second.
We did that already. Ordinances for first reading. An ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, New Jersey, revising Chapter 457 of the Township Code entitled Trees and Invasive Species. Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
9 yes.
Next will be discussion item 1, discussion ordinances, DO1, amending Old Bridge Township Code, Chapter 250-41, entitled Conditional Plan Use Ordinance. Good evening.
Okay, we ready? Okay, council, thank you so much.
Good evening.
This is an ordinance amending our current ordinance conditional use. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Over the years, 24-hour facilities have become, I'm not going to say the norm, but more and more are cropping up. When I mean the 24-hour, that they're open 24 hours a day conducting businesses. Our current ordinance, we feel, does not guarantee the same quality of life that our residential residents experience when a 24-hour facility is constructed near a residential neighborhood. It's important that the residents have that separation. It's not the same as living next to a business that is open for only so many hours during the day. They get no relief from a facility that's open 24 hours a day. So we think there should be certain language in the ordinance and basically is allowing them, but making sure that that buffer has increased between a 24-hour facility and a residential area, and vice versa, that when a residential area is being built next to a 24-hour facility, that does not butt up against a 24-hour operation that then again would, the owner of that business would receive complaints. So that's what it is, Vina. I'll kick it over to Vina. I think it's pretty reasonable. I think it's in the best interest of our residents so that they maintain their quality of life while they live here in Old Bridge and not have that 24-hour business move in right next to them, where currently the separation, I think, is only, Vina, correct me, like 50 feet? Currently, it's only 50 feet, and that is not, a resident should not be able to hear or see after a certain hour, period of time at night or in the morning, a 24-hour business operating. There are some restrictions already in our ordinance as related to 24-hour facilities with manpower as far as two people being on at all times. But this, I think, and I hope you would agree, that's in the best interest of our residents. And it's still being business-friendly, but again, the residents must always come first. So I'll hand it over to Vina, and I'm sure she can be a lot of information.
Good evening, Council. So As we continue to review the township code and the land development ordinance and improvise it, the one thing that came to my attention was Chapter 86 of the code, and that relates to businesses that are operated 24 hours. This code actually has only two requirements. One is that there has to be two personnel throughout 24 hours of the operation of the facility, or you should have a security system on the premises. So then my next step was, is there any language that protects us? Is there any language in the land development ordinance that really helps us regulate these uses? And unfortunately, the land development ordinance currently is silent. We do have the 50-foot buffer requirement, but which is there for any non-residential use. But we don't have anything additional to separate us from these 24-hour facilities. So what I basically did is, first we prepared an inventory of the existing 24-hour businesses in the township. And this is chapter 86-5, which talks about 24-hour businesses. And this is the list. Actually, there are 30, I don't think it's really clear, but there are 30 such businesses in Old Bridge that operate 24 hours, most of which you will see are gas stations with convenience stores, fast food restaurants, medical uses, and gyms and funeral homes. The next thing we did is we actually went and mapped these sites to see where they are located. And as you can see, most of these 24-hour facilities are located along the highly traversed routes. That's Route 18, Route 9, 516, and Route 34. The most interesting part is when you superimpose the zoning requirements with it, you will notice that, yes, these uses are mostly located in the highway commercial zones or the non-residential zones. However, these uses directly abut residential zones, and they directly abut residences. What we did is we actually mapped the different type of uses. So you will see in the legend, there's convenience stores, there's fast food restaurants, there are pharmacies, funeral homes, gas stations with convenience stores, and retail fueling with convenience, which is mostly 7-Elevens with gas station, Quick Checks with gas station. We don't have a Quick Check, but Wawa with a gas station. The next important, and one of the challenges the planning department often faces is many residents stop by and they always question us that how do you allow a 24-hour facility so close to my house? How can you have a 24/7 gas station so close to the neighborhood? So what we did is actually we sorted out these uses. Now, having a pharmacy in the neighborhood or having a medical use like an urgent care is naturally beneficial to the community. Having a gym, because these gyms have the neighborhood residents as members. So it's not like you're attracting outsiders to these facilities. So these are quite essential uses which help a community. However, gas stations with convenience stores, these are the ones that attract passing by traffic. And then safety becomes a concern. So what we did is we looked at our land development ordinance. Gas station with convenience stores are permitted as a conditional use. So we added two conditions to these conditional use. One is that no such structure shall be located 250 feet from a residential property line or a residential zone, and that no such use shall be within 1,000 feet of another similar use. So we added those two as conditions of getting an approval. Also, to cover any other use that is currently not existing in Old Bridge and may want to operate 24 hours, we added a separate conditional use which says that any use that is permitted in a non-residential zone other than medical use, which includes hospital, pharmacies, urgent cares, local gyms, and a funeral home, except for these, have to meet these other two conditions, which is they cannot be located within 250 feet of a residential zone or a residential property, and two such uses cannot be within 1,000 feet of each other. So that's the only change we are proposing, and we are just changing the current conditional use to 50-41 section of the ordinance. I'll take any questions.
Questions, council, on my left?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yeah. My concern is the 1,000 feet between two businesses. If it's not the same business. Yeah.
1,000 feet between similar uses. So, I mean, the idea was that you don't want to have two Wawas within 1,000 feet of each other.
Okay, it's that's what it is. It's
Right.
not two 24-hour operations. I mean.
Oh, correct, right. Let's say you had a,
We had an emergency care and a gas station next to each other.
That's okay.
They could coexist.
Correct.
Right? So that would be allowed.
Correct.
Okay. That's my only question.
Anyone else left for a comment or question? Anyone on my right? Mr. Pescetti.
Yes, once again, congratulations. That's awesome. The only question I have was, I'm really tired. Sorry. Did you look at the whole town, especially down in Ward 1 area, where stores are really close together and the residents are right behind there? Somebody moves out and another business moves in, they may have a difficulty moving in there because the residents are so close.
So this relates to only 24-hour businesses. It really doesn't impact regular businesses that operate between 10 to 8 or the regular hours. If it's 24 hours, then it would have to abide by this ordinance.
Okay, and if somebody came before zoning and tried to get a variance, what's the likelihood of them succeeding?
I mean, this offers us a tool, a regulatory tool, where we can have a more stringent review of these uses. So the planning department and the engineering department then can require more stringent buffer requirement. We'll make sure that they landscape that buffer and there is ample distance between the residential use. There's fencing. There are other means to protect us. But right now, the land development ordinance does not have any language.
Right. So that's why I'm really happy what you did. Congratulations. Thank you.
Anyone else on my right? Okay. No?
No, this is only a deal.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're asking council to move it for introduction, they still wouldn't speak on a for a public comment anyway.
I'll move it up. I think it's a great idea.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay.
So we have.
Yep, we have a motion by Dr. Greenberg Velli.
The motion is to move it for introduction.
Right, and a second by Mr. Rizzoli. Eddie or Mr. Rizzoli? Okay. Okay, no worries. The motion was made
Anita.
by Anita, Dr. Greenberg, and second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Rizzoli. And this is for first reading.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Brown, for first
Yes.
reading?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pescetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes, it's absolutely necessary.
yes.
Thank you.
The public hearing will be at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for all the hard work.
Thank you. Good job.
Next. I'm sorry. Next is,
We were moving it up for first reading today.
yeah,
We
there's
did. That
a,
was the vote.
when Kenny does it, it's two.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, there's a difference.
Take,
I know.
take my cues.
It's-
I wish
It's
we could do
introduced,
it with the
it's introduced, it's introduced into a public hearing on March 16th.
Should do it, too.
Okay, okay. All right, next is discussion, DO2, an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge establishing a new Article 4, Section 39-44, in Chapter 39 of the Code of the Township of Old Bridge entitled Pet Shops. Mr. Merwin.
Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. We've been through several meetings here where we've heard from all sides of this argument. I've spoken to the attorney. The attorney thinks that we already have a licensed establishment in town, that being the pet shop at the shops at Old Bridge. And for us to ban the sale of animals would be a costly and long fight, of which I don't think the taxpayers of Old Bridge should be funding. This is a state and a federal problem that the state and the federal people ignore, and that's who should be doing it. You know, our job is to weigh all the evidence. We have a new business coming into town that's going to spend a lot of money in taxes. He spent a lot of money opening up his business because he received a license from this town. I wish my air filtration system in my home was as good the animals at this pet store are going to have. They're constantly getting fresh air in this store. Our ordinance, as proposed, puts the onus on the pet store of giving us the information on a yearly basis on where, who, and what they're buying. And from that information, our local, our county, our state, and our federal inspectors and regulators can go and do their job, because it's their job, not ours. And I think that if this is not right, and we can revisit it at another time, but I think listening to all this stuff, we have the animal rights people that probably are going to take nothing short of a complete ban as a victory. And we have the business owner who believes that he's dealing with reputable, licensed, USDA approved breeders. And I'm going to err on the side of the business owner on this one. And I will move this to move it up for first reading, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Anyone else have a comment on my left? Anyone on my right for a comment?
Tony, on your right.
A motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. I apologize, I didn't see your own.
Yeah, so this ordinance, what is it exactly, what does it do?
So again, it establishes, and actually it follows state statute and state regulation relative to pet shops in the state of New Jersey. So it defines a pet shop, and the definition is from state statute. with respect to the place of business which is not part of a kennel where an animals, including but not limited to dogs, cats, birds, etc., are sold. And then it requires the issuance of a license. And then as part of it, it requires on an annual basis that the person provide certain reports to the township clerk, which includes the fact, the name, address of the USDA license number of the breeder that they obtain cats or dogs from. Same thing if it's with respect to any brokers. They would have to disclose that information as well. It also requires, to the extent that if a breeder or broker is required to be registered in the state, if it's out of state, that information is provided as well. It also requires that the pet shop owner report on an annual basis the number of dogs and cats that it sells during the year. And that information, again, would be provided to the local health officer. And it's an additional step for the township to ensure, to the extent that they can, that the pet shop owner is acting in compliance with state statute, state law, as well as any federal laws that might apply. It's something that we currently don't have because obviously this is our first pet shop. While it would not apply initially to this particular pet shop owner, it will apply upon renewal of the license. The license has to be obtained on an annual basis, and again, that's pursuant to state statute, and these same reporting requirements would be required. Also, there's certain specific items that they have identified as part of the application, which would also be applied to any new pet shops if they were to open in New Jersey.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for a question?
I just to add, so I've heard the debate back and forth. I get it, but to the extent that the town doesn't have an ordinance in place dealing with pet shops, I think it needs one now, especially that we have one. And the requirements that are in the proposed ordinance do come from state statute. So it's nothing extreme, but it also puts a check in place. And I think that any a pet shop owner, especially we had the presentation from the woman from, I'm not sure what it was, right, all those items that she identified that she's required to have for each of her animals, basically it's what's in the ordinance as well. So I think it does put a check, and it's a reasonable accommodation, given the fact that we couldn't stop this, just so people know, we could not stop this pet shop owner from opening in any event because of the fact that the township has nothing on its books to prevent it. And for those, it's interesting, I read a lot of the emails, and most of the information from these other are not New Jersey, where these laws relative to banning the sale of dogs or cats have been challenged, but not in New Jersey on a federal state law basis. I haven't seen anyone stating that New Jersey, these towns who have adopted these ordinances have been challenged, whether or not they're successful or not. I noted there were a couple that were out of state. New Jersey passed the law. New Jersey, this issue was brought up, I think back in 2017 or 18, the legislature. They adopted the statute. That's the way that they chose to enforce it. I'm not, as a township attorney, I think anyone who knows me, do not think municipal government should be in the business where the state, while they regulate a particular area, that they necessarily have to go above and beyond those particular areas. There are federal laws in place, there are state laws in place, but the fact that a township adopts an ordinance doesn't mean it's constitutional, doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's effective. A few years back, municipalities all adopted, it had to do with sexual predators. They all passed an ordinance saying that sexual predators had to be registered and they couldn't live within a certain area of a park. That was struck down by the state as being unconstitutional. So to the extent that this particular applicant has filed for applications, has received his permits, we could not stop them from opening anyway. And I noticed with respect to Brick, I saw the article back in 2017 where this particular operator, whomever it was, they received multiple violations and fines, and it was the state who came in and investigated them. Maybe that was a reason why they shut them down. But again, when I went back to look at their ordinance, it didn't seem, and at the time, I think the attorney told them that this one particular establishment was grandfathered. And I agree with that legal opinion, because we would open ourselves up as a municipality to be sued by the gallows because of the fact that we have no prohibition against the operation of such a shop. But I think that this ordinance is fair. It gives the town the ability to have regulations in place on a going-forward basis, and that would certainly apply to this pet shop owner and anyone who may open, in the future. And again, as Mr. Merwin said, if to the extent that we find it's problematic, it doesn't mean that there aren't other options available for the council.
Okay.
So it's my recommendation to go forward with the introduction and adoption of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo.
Can I have a motion?
Okay.
I made the motion.
No, Mr. Merwin made the motion, yes.
Second.
Second.
Second by
Mr. De Palma?
Mr. De Palma.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes, I just want to make this clear. We don't vote on the pet shop. We're voting on this ordinance. Correct.
Right.
Correct, you're right. It has nothing to do with the pet shop. It has to do with
An ordinance.
the ordinance that deals with the regulation.
Thank you for.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pescetti?
So this, look, I have a question for the attorney. So this is a discussion ordinance, right? Were you moving it to first, what is it?
Well, again, it's an ordinance that Mr. Merwin asked to be discussed, so the motion is to move it for introduction.
Yes.
Correct, just so you know, so people, first reading and introduction are the same thing.
All right. Mr. Pescetti?
Second reading and adoption are the same
Yes.
thing.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soha?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Who was the,
I don't know who's in
who
the
was the,
Hmm?
who was the no?
Adina, you said no, right? Yeah, no, right? Yeah, it was Adina.
Okay, I just saw you
Yeah.
couldn't hear. Okay.
Oh, I thought I made a mistake.
Yeah, no, Mark asked me, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
thank you. Next is D1, a discussion item, team building and ethics training workshop for council members. Mrs. Brown.
All right, so just bringing this up again. Last meeting on February 10th, I did so informally. The purpose of me bringing this training as an option to the council, the purpose of me bringing it up is because while I think the way people got along tonight was very nice and agreeable, in the past I've seen a lot of disrespect to people that are attending the meetings as observers or people that make comments, and then vice versa, to be honest. And also just amongst the people here on council, I've seen, biased treatment and some pretty harsh language used. So I wanted to push for this, although I know we cannot force people to change how they think or how they behave with other people. This is just really in hopes that we can at least do something that's more team building and getting all of us a little bit more on the same page, because I know we vary very differently in terms of what we believe and what we support behind the scenes, but I do want us to at least be respectful of each other here and then again off the dais as well. So that's why this is on the agenda for tonight. So,
Thank you. Anyone on my left for a comment? On my right? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Merwin, go right ahead.
I don't think what she's asking is all that bad. And, we could probably use some team building. Maybe we can utilize the school facilities. They have their team building facility behind the high school. Maybe we could get a day out there where we could all get together and put something out. Just a thought.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
So Council President, so we're just discussing it, doesn't mean anything has to happen going forward. Question.
I'm sorry, what?
So since we're discussing it, doesn't mean that anything else has to happen going forward. I know this is probably like the 5th time we've discussed this, but, so we're just discussing it.
Well, I asked everyone up and down if they had any comments. The only one that had a suggestion was Mr. Merwin. So we
Okay.
could take it under consideration.
Oh, okay. So we're taking it under consideration. Okay. So then we'll talk about it behind the scenes, or?
Well, we can have a discussion even at the next meeting if anyone wants to pursue it, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Next is council member comments. Anyone on my left for a comment? Yes, Mrs. Brown.
I just wanted to alert the public. One of the things that I said I was going to do when I was campaigning was to push for more initiatives for entrepreneurship in our town, specifically in my ward, but I mean, this is for everybody. I never have anything exclusive to Ward 3 so much. But on April 4th of this year, 2020, at 10:30 a.m., I will be having an entrepreneurship workshop over at Old Bridge Library, which is obviously right next door. And we will talk about certifications for businesses, because there's different certifications that women can get that will get them more visibility with their business and hopefully more business with the state. But also just basic 101 entrepreneurism and entrepreneurship if some people are unfamiliar with how to start a business, but they're interested in doing so. That's all. Thank
Okay,
you.
what was the time?
Oh, it's at 10:30 a.m. on April 4th, right at the library. And I will have a flyer that I will post at the library, just waiting to get that back.
All right, thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you.
Are you through, Mrs. Brown? Or?
I am, thank you.
Okay. How about Mr. De Palma?
Yeah, so I just had two quick things. The first thing was, actually, when I stepped outside, what I thought was great, I did see Mr. Gallo and Mr. Giuliano having a nice civil conversation about the opposing side, so I commend both sides to having some civil discourse on the pet store issue that we're having, so thank you for both sides for that. The second thing I just wanted to bring up real quick, I brought up a couple meetings ago about what the McDivitt students were doing for the animals in Australia. So just a quick update on that. The second grade and the other grades as well walked around collecting change. They raised $461 for those animals, so I just wanted to congratulate them.
Hey, McDivitt.
My daughter Sophia and the rest of the second grade class, especially Mrs. Cohen's class, which Sophia is in, did a great job. I just wanted to make sure that they were recognized.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on my left? Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for.
John, your mic on? John, your mic on?
The meeting was a lot more organized than I think, and everybody spoke their piece, and I think it was a lot better than what happened last week. And that's all I want to say. Oh, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
If you're Irish, if Italian, I don't care what you are.
Okay, all right, thank you. On my right, anyone? No? Okay. Then I will also close the council member comments. Be public comments on any subject matter. Good evening.
Lois Backman. I appreciate the fact that the board recognizes the necessity of changes in the zoning ordinance. I'm sure you're aware of the opposition of a gas station that was at the board meeting from Foxborough Village. If a gas station wants to operate less than 24 hours, for example, 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., midnight, is it not true that they would be able to build and ask for an ordinance afterwards to change it to 24 hours, a variance to get it changed?
Sorry.
If a gas station gets approved from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m.,
And
you
they wanna
approve the
go.
24 hours, no 24 hours. Can they, in the future, ask for a variance to be open 24 hours?
Well, it depends. If it's a conditional use, it's a use variance. But the simple answer would be, yes, they'd have to obtain a use variance in that particular, As long as if it's a permitted use or conditional, if it's not a permitted use, they need a use variance. If it's in a zone that allows it a conditional use and they don't meet all the conditions, they have to get a use variance as well.
A gas station or a business that has hazardous material has to have should have a specific exclusion in the new ordinance from being built within 1,000 feet of a residence. If they put a gas station in between the 6 and 12, it won't be under the 1,000 feet ordinance for the future. And if they could take consideration to make a separate carve out for not having a gas station.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for your comments. They're very well taken.
Okay.
Have a good evening. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard, please step forward. Yeah. Good evening.
How you doing? Dennis Boyce from Boyce's Towing, Old Bridge. You passed an ordinance earlier this evening, but I think there's a miscommunication because I have an ordinance from Captain Fritz with different rates than the ones you published today. Okay. Is there any way to discuss this with you at a later date?
Captain Fritz, and then maybe he can,
Yeah.
Get back to us. But
All right.
that's where we got it.
Yeah, so
Thank
if
you
you
very much.
speak with him, then we can maybe get this
Then if
straight.
we need to amend it, we.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Step forward, please. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Peter Shearer from 19 Merritt Terrace in Old Bridge, and I just want to put in a few moments yet on this pet issue. And as the attorney, Mr. Roselli, said, the legality of something does not prove it to be good. And in that basis, if you want to consider things by the extreme, by just making things a little bit more extreme to see if they're right, it used to be at one time legal to breed human beings for resale. So my idea is that a puppy mill produces far too many unsellable puppies. And once they get a little bit older, I have no idea what they do. And another idea is that I heard the term of a quality dog being thrown around. And I really don't know what that means. I'm kind of proud that my daughter just fostered and adopted a 3-legged mutt. And it's really fun. And one big advantage, bear with me here, is that when it rains, there's less footprints. Thank you. Okay. I hope okay, somebody did. I hope that the council recognizes that the money of pro-puppy land witnesses are from Manalapan. The family of the pro-puppy land witnesses are mostly from Manalapan or the Gallows family. It just seemed like a repeating theme over here. So this is not necessarily a widespread idea. And the town does not really need to promote suffering from overbreeding if we can use it to help adoption, because I see that they were talking about, some of these ASPCA people gaining something, and they're really not gaining. They're just trying to find homes for the dogs without suffering. Thank you.
Good evening again.
Hi, Sherry Wexler again, Old Bridge. You've been told this evening that there are extremists spreading lies and propaganda. Please ask yourself, what motivation do advocates have? We have zero financial gain like a pet store owner does. For us, it's not about money. We don't profit off the lives of puppies. You've also been told that the pet store owners are being harassed and are receiving death threats. That is unacceptable, and I can almost guarantee you it's not coming from any of the animal advocates you've seen in this room tonight. If that were me and I was receiving death threats or being harassed, I would be at the police station immediately filing the complaint. Have the people claiming that they're being harassed filed any complaints? They should be talking to the police, not you, the council. It's not our job or yours to police the internet. Shut Down the Puppy Mill Pipeline has 160 likes. Safari Stands Petland Old Bridge has 96 likes, many of whom are animal advocates who want to comment on their posts. However, they can't because Safari Stands hid most of the 105 comments on their pinned post. They turned off commenting on another Old Bridge page. 116 Old Bridge residents signed a petition asking for a humane ordinance. How many residents signed a petition opposing one? The last thing I have is when I signed up to speak this evening, there were several people in the line ahead of me. When I reached the desk, the clerk instructed me to sign in on a new list. I found that strange, being that the sign-in sheet was only half full. Why was I told to start a new sheet? That became clear when the public comments portion began and I was called to speak first. There were several people who signed up ahead of me. Can the clerk please explain that rationale?
Sure. There was a whole line of people there, and everybody was waiting to sign. So you had started the sheet, and when I got them up here, I didn't know which one was the first, the second, the third, or the fourth. So I took the one that was completely full, and that we made that the first, and that was the one that you were on. Wasn't for any particular reason. Really
Okay, well,
wasn't.
thank you. I appreciate
Because
that response.
I did that with other people in back of you. We started out with 3 sheets because there were so many.
Okay,
That
thank
was
you. I
why.
appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. So the last time we were here, we're going to just call it a misunderstanding that the clerk actually had a sign-up sheet here that she turned away everyone that came up here with the exception of 4 people. 3 of those people were members of the Gallows group. Now, we were also denied, as I mentioned the last time we were here, we asked for use of AV equipment. We wrote you twice, then we copied mayor and council, and now we still don't have access to AV equipment, but apparently it works because other people can use it, but we're not allowed to use it.
Nobody's allowed to use it, and it was my decision not to allow it to
This
be used.
my time now, or
You asked a question, I'm responding.
is that right? So here we are. Since we can't use it and we're not allowed to use it, this is the clerk denying the right for people to sign in the last time we were here. This will be on the Old Bridge page. It'll be on the Old Bridge page tonight or tomorrow, and it'll be followed by many, many complaints. We had at least a dozen people here that were denied the ability to sign in. Are there any questions? I'd be happy to field them if you feel that the video is not substantial enough with the clerk explaining that we shouldn't sign in. If you're here to speak about anything having to do with puppies, that we shouldn't sign in. Is it a responsibility of the individual who shows up to basically know what's on the clerk's mind? Or it's ridiculous to me. Ridiculous that now twice we have issues with sign-in sheets. Nobody's making them up. I'd like to walk away with a picture of each of the sign-in sheets. Would you open the public records and allow me to take a picture of the sign-in sheets?
You can submit an Oprah request.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I trust that all will be there and they'll be marked
You
in
can
the order.
submit an Oprah request.
Okay, well, Mr. Roselli, the other item that was of note is that your partner, I guess it's your partner, was here, and we have video of him standing up and pointing at people, telling them to shut up and sit down, when people were here and they said, well, what about this person, and what about this person, and what about this person? Seems that the people that were on, excuse me,
So again,
the person on this side of the aisle is not allowed to speak, and again, you're interrupting my time. I don't understand. You have the whole night to speak.
Council.
You have the whole night to answer questions, and you're interrupting my time. There it goes. 2:18, 2:17, 2:16. My time. My time. Again, a violation of the Open Public Meeting Act.
Excuse me, you're wrong. Address
I'm wrong?
council. Yes, you're wrong.
How am I
Address
wrong?
council.
Go ahead. I'll let you answer now, Mr. Roselli.
Address council.
Pardon me?
Address council.
But you're addressing and interrupting my time. How dare you?
Address
How dare you?
Address council. You're addressing me. Address council.
I'll address council. Council, I want this gentleman to be reprimanded. I want his partner to be reprimanded for their improper etiquette, their breach of Open Public Records, Open Public Meeting Act, and I want it done immediately. And I guess if it's not done, I guess all the people that were here will file individual complaints or however it's supposed to be. I really tell you, it's very upsetting that not only do we have problems being redirected, I mean, I've never even heard of a meeting where you walk in and people are directed in any way, shape, or form about what they should sign up for and what they should not sign up for, whether there's malicious intent or not. I've never seen that before. It was one of the most egregious situations we've ever encountered. Mr. Roselli, have a good evening. The clerk is trying to get your attention. If she'd like to respond, I'd be happy to give you my 55 seconds for her to respond, if that is what's going to happen.
I'll finish your 55 seconds and then I'll respond.
Okay, well, I'm happy to do it right now. Be my guest.
When I made that statement, not to have everybody sign in, we had every intention, and we did, let everybody speak. Everybody was going to speak on everything. We had something on the agenda, and we were going to call up the public to come and speak. That item was on the agenda, and I explained that. It wasn't because I didn't want anybody to speak, or somebody told me that they didn't want you to speak, or anybody else. When I say you, I mean everybody else.
So you weren't directed?
No, no.
You weren't directed in any way?
No, it was on the agenda, so we thought it would be best.
And forgive me, I have 7 seconds. I'd just like to say that we were denied speech because we were limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Adjourn.
Can I just take in 3 seconds? Sella, just a recommendation before the motion in the future, just put a number on those sheets, then you'll know the order.
I have numbers on the sheets.
Okay, just a recommendation.
Motion to adjourn.
Who,
Anita, Dr. Greenberg, and Mr. Rizzoli.
Mrs. Brown?
Wait, they don't know.
Yes, we're adjourning.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
And Dr. Greenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscatty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
President Soho?
Yes.
9 yes.